Can you hear me okay?
Yep,
Yeah,
you
you're
sound
kind of
good.
breaking up too. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound fine.
Okay. We can hear you right now, but not anymore.
I-
You sort of like went almost like a click.
Zach, did you align that thing to the old screen behind it?
Yeah,
You did a good job.
yeah, it took less than, well, I also had to move the screen up because there's some invisible buttons below that you can't
Yep,
see.
for moving the slides,
Yeah.
changing slides.
Actually, I can't see them right now either. That's a little alarming.
Oh,
Where's
you
the
can only see them on the
buttons?
desktop client or something?
I'm on the desktop client. Where's the buttons?
Oh,
Hey, Brad, can you see the buttons? You might be muted,
remember
Brad.
what one of the roles
Oh
could
yeah,
let you see the
sorry.
buttons.
I can see that. I can see it just the top of that button, that bottom one.
Yeah, I don't see any buttons.
Are you not one of the right roles? You're the room owner though, right?
I was one of the right roles an hour ago. I guess I'm
Sigh.
not running the meeting. Oh well.
All right, now
Well,
the
I
stream
can
can
see it.
hear me.
Do that and that.
Hey, hey.
Yeah, I can do it.
You know, what can we really complain about for free technology?
Everything.
Pretty much everything, but yeah.
I just love some stability, but
Yeah.
I mean it looks pretty good with those settings. I kind of like the way it looks now.
So is the reason they made it so we can't look at websites because 15-year-old kids were putting these together and showing pornos to each other, or
Yeah, and I think maybe they were doing it in other people's rooms. Like
oh,
there might
okay.
have been an actual exploit, maybe, but because there's nothing that stops me from showing you stuff now, anything on the internet. But other than it's super painful and slow to do
Other
so.
yeah, other than the JSON data is ridiculously impossible to A, know what to do, B, know where to put it, and then you have to be very persistent. And then you have to own the room and place the screen. So it's a lot of
So
effort.
Zach, I'm going to be, or Matt, going to be wanting your advice on if we can set up some sort of viewing party for the Met.
Yeah, I think we should schedule a test. When you see the videos on here, they look really nice. Much nicer than it looked through the browser.
Yeah,
So
Well,
if you set up a YouTube video, you could totally put it on that screen just like this and play it in the
okay,
space.
it's going to be a YouTube. It's going to be a YouTube live stream or
yeah,
Live
so that's the
stream.
one. That's
premiere.
the
They
one
call it a
question mark.
premiere.
Because
It's going to be
If the
a
live
YouTube
stream works
premiere.
because it needs to be.
yeah, we'll want to
Well,
set up an actual live stream and then come in here and hit stop a couple times and reboot the
and test
room and
the
see if it
yeah.
resumes.
So
Otherwise, what you might also be able to do is to route the live YouTube event through something else that is just like regular HTTP streaming video, and then you
so
could plug that into the URL,
so
and that would probably work.
Oculus or Quest has this thing called oh gosh, what's it called? Big screen or something like that. This where you go to a theater.
Yep. Yep.
Could we do it in there? Or?
I think one of the weird restrictions is that you can only stream video to people who also have that same video on their device.
Oh.
And so then when you stream it, it actually syncs it, but it's playing it off their local device.
Sure.
Hey
And I
guys,
think that's to
welcome.
prevent you from streaming like something you don't have the rights to.
Oh. It makes
Hey
sense a
there.
little bit. Like,
It's
hey,
a little weird,
Hey there.
but
Hey.
I just assume this
The
is
big screen
Jeff
avatars
Bezos.
are really weird too.
Oh, really? What
but
is
I
it
was
like?
looking into it, and it seems like big screen is one of the only other meeting
Shareable.
systems that has like large capacity,
Oh.
because everything else is like 8 or 16. And I think we were trying to. I think Altspace is like 30-ish, something like that. maybe
the
more.
last-
I think
So
they
the
can
last-
shard it and go up to like hundreds, but I think you're not in the same room with everyone.
So the
Um,
last meeting we were at, or the one before that, we were talking about. Oh, I can't even remember. I'll have to go get my notes out. That's what I love about having the headset on, is I can't look at my notes. Is one of the big names had some sort of meeting tool they were putting together. I can't remember what it was called. It was either Google or. I'll go get my notes when we.
If big screen would work, if you could get it so that you could stream your own video, like from a YouTube live stream or something, it would probably be a good option. But like I said, I looked into it and it seemed like they do their own streaming. Like if you rent a movie, you
Right.
can just sit in a big
Yep.
theater and watch,
Yep.
a movie in the
Well,
space.
the people
Things
are
that they
helping
have
with the
control
Met.
over, they let you do, other things. But I believe that if you do it on your own, there's some restrictions that's trying to prevent them from getting
Yeah.
sued for, copyright violations.
The people that are helping with the Met, there's a fun thing that goes on once the first week Friday of the month called Scream It Off the Screen. It's a showing of short films, and that they used to do down at the Bryant Lake Bowl, and now they're doing it online on a live YouTube thing.
There's some
And
like
these guys said
multi-streaming
that they
stuff
went
too.
big movie and watched it. I mean, big screen and watched it, and they.
Yeah, we should try it. I think it would be great if it would
Yeah.
work.
Okay, so I'm.
What are the viewership limitations? How many people can watch a big screen thing?
Earlier this year, they increased it by like a massive amount.
Okay.
And I don't know the exact number, but it's like probably larger than the audience that you would normally have.
I'm guessing that what's going to happen is it's going to be like an audience of us guys. It's not going to be necessary. We'll see. It's
At
not
least on the
necessarily
VR side, right? Because people will be watching the YouTube
right.
stream
It's
and
just,
other things.
Why
right.
not watch it with your friends in this kind of environment in VR if we can? But it's going to be like a subset of the usual group, I'm guessing, and the rest of the people will probably watch it, just 2D on YouTube. Okay. Sweet. Thanks, guys. I'm so old.
Well, hello,
I can never-
Adventurellas. I don't think I've ever met you. I'm Brock.
I'm sorry. Just a second. I'm Mike.
Mike, welcome. Glad to meet you. Glad you
Meet
came.
Yeah. We have been. Let's see. If I had this down.
Oh crap! Friends for 6 months. I probably found
Yeah,
you
I
in
was just
another
gonna say.
thing, and I just clicked
I've
the
been
button.
Mike's friend for 6 months. Though.
Yeah.
I haven't had
that's
a
no
chance to
problem.
really
Yeah.
talk to you before. I just saw you at
Yeah.
a meeting, and I'm like, yeah, why not just hit the friend button?
It's a great idea, actually. I think. I because all
I
my
almost
world's bookmarks were old, and so I ended up in the other IGDATC VR place, which is not this room, this space.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
just
just
a
followed.
lounge space.
Exactly. So I just followed
Yeah.
you guys here. Speaking of, I should save this world off.
Well, this
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
been-
it should be every month, mostly.
if you're
Yeah.
signed up, and like you registered to come,
Yeah.
if you go and hit events, my events, this will show
Yeah.
up.
I'm doing the
okay.
same to this gentleman over here called JB. Hey, welcome. I don't know who you are either. Shaking hands.
Hey, I'm Jesse.
Oh,
Hey, Jess,
sorry. Yeah,
nice
I
to meet you.
don't.
Welcome.
I don't have any hands.
That's okay. You're welcome to it. We'll fictitiously shake. Here you go. We'll
Sounds
do one of
good.
those.
Yeah, there you go.
Here, take
Social
one of mine.
distancing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take one of here. Have one of mine.
Yeah, I'm really interested in looking into seeing what kind of possibilities there are for blindness accessibility with virtual reality. And although a lot of people just think, well, that's just headphones, you know, it's not, because a lot of the world's, even if you take, for example, Allspace VR, you have a lot of situations where visual elements are paired with audio elements. And also, if you think about it, how cool would it be to have kind of a virtual reality white cane where you could kind of sense around a situation
oh my God, you're thinking on the same levels that I am. We should be friends. Holy crap! I think we were already friends, I guess. But
yeah.
This
Nano
is the
Seed,
kind of
what's your
thing
name again?
my name is Brock. I dream about this
Okay.
kind of stuff all the time. I'm a fully sensed human being, but I think a lot about doing like art installments for people that are blind. But if you're a regular sensed person, I maybe that's the wrong way to say that. I don't know what the politically correct way to say that is, but I would love the idea of like having well, now it's totally ridiculous because of COVID, but something that people actually experience art to where
Yeah, you
it's
about ready?
intentional. That people
Yeah.
walk into an art
Yeah,
display
I'll-
where
I'll
you
get
take your
with,
hands
Patrick
and you
in there.
touch things in an
Oh,
art
yeah.
display that tells a story
Here.
because of your sense of
With,
touch and because of
emails and
sound that
emails.
you hear, and maybe
Yeah,
even
Yeah.
smells and
Oh,
temperature can be
God.
involved. I geek out about
Yeah.
a time in my life that's probably going to be like 12 years from now,
Oh, well.
where I get to
Yeah.
make an
Yeah.
art installment like that for like the Walker
Billy
here in
McKinnon.
Minneapolis,
Yeah. There's
where you
there's
can
been
actually
some.
invite the community of the blind, and then also the rest of the community
Mar-
that
let's see if
gets to
Marty's
put
here.
on a blindfold and experience what this would be like if, like, shut off your eyes.
You all
have
set,
an
Marty?
art
Yeah,
experience that tells a story that does not
Okay.
involve your eyes.
Oh, right.
The
Oh, I
Walker
got to figure
had
out why I
some,
can't
has
see the
had
buttons
stuff
on this
where
thing.
they've
Let
had
me
blind
re-enter
people
the
when
room.
you
I
touch
should
the
have been
exhibits.
testing that.
I went
Where are we
to
pointing
a great exhibit in DC, in Washington DC, where you would go around and they had
Zach,
everything.
what's the portal
where
to?
you would touch on buttons and there was
What
everything
portal?
in braille and everything.
There's
It was
a portal over
Yeah,
there.
one
that
over there.
exhibit was
It's
about
going away.
Vietnam, but you could kind of
I
all the
didn't make it.
maps were
my
tactile
portal.
and everything, so you could listen.
I think
to
we're
different
already
stuff
where that
going
portal's
on,
going.
Press these buttons. And
Actually, I'm
stuff.
just going to go on the
You
web
know,
and add
there's
myself as
fonts there behind
admin
it.
again.
Um,
That should give me the buttons back.
you know, so
The buttons.
that's
I like your
absolutely
skeleton
Didn't even
jacket.
know
a very real thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I've
festive.
forgetting your name. Nano
Is
No,
Seed.
that
I'm Brock.
there's Halloween
This guy
costumes?
just
I didn't
walked
even
right
look.
through me.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, bro.
I'm Minnesota born and raised.
Sorry.
Oh, you just disappeared. Where'd you go? The cool guy I just met just vanished. Oh, there you are.
It's gone.
He's got arms.
Hey,
That
I'm glad I
happens.
met you.
All right, let me edit this event. Nope, not that one. Where's the event? There it is.
Are you back?
Mysteriously
back.
has hands now.
One of the other new things is people get muted as they enter the room. That's a new thing.
Yeah.
Hey, Jesse, what's your thing? What are you all about?
I think it's buggy.
Just VR.
I think that's why
Just
my
VR? You're not into anything else.
camera's all
Sitting
weird.
at home on VR.
Right on. Dig it.
Or my
Okay.
not camera. That's the wrong word.
Totally.
Why my button
What's one of your favorite
was weird.
experiences in VR?
No, it's the
And
opposite.
Social stuff.
I know what you mean. I go by the color.
Some games are okay,
Of it.
but I feel like we got a while
For the
to
mute.
go before the game.
All right, I'm gonna re-enter the room and hopefully have control of the
That's true.
screen.
What kind of platform are you playing on right now?
Right now I'm on Quest 2.
Right on.
Yeah,
Did
so
you-
the fact that
obviously,
it's
you must have
like
just recently
when I
got
hover over it, it
what-
says
did you
unmute.
download a couple games or other
That's what
social
gets me.
experiences? What are you
'Cause
having some fun with?
I would assume that means I'm
like,
muted.
I had
When
a
I'm
Oculus
actually
Go,
muted, if I hover
and the
over it,
social
it says
experiences
mute,
are pretty cool.
which makes no sense.
Quest doesn't really help that too much, but the games are much better. Like Pistol Whip is pretty
What I
awesome.
just said while I was muted is that it's red while you're muted and it blinks while you're not muted.
Also playing some bots.
Yeah,
That's how I know.
the blinking is a nice,
That's a good workout. Apparently.
that's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super.
Yeah,
it's
right.
it's
Really
definitely backwards in terms of the
I
text
have
that it
a hard
says.
time with stuff that I buy on Vive and stuff
If
that I
it
buy
said
on Quest
mute-
and like what I can cross-platform,
Muted
'cause I'm
instead
like,
of mute.
well, gosh, why? Well, obviously,
That
I
would-
want to play.
that
something
makes
like
sense.
Red Hot, or excuse me,
So,
Super Hot.
Marty, am I in the camera view?
On-
Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
You know, a tetherless
All right, let me
system
make
would be
myself
great,
loud.
but I only have that for now on Vive, and enjoyed the hell out of that game. And I was like, oh gosh, should I re-buy it again?
Yeah, I
on
tried to get
Quest?
the IGDA logo
haven't quite
over
decided I
there
wanna
behind
do
the
that.
podium in there. But that might
for a
be
while,
overkill
developers
because
would give you a
then the
key,
screen is
And
only
now I think
3/4 of the
Oculus
like
put a kibosh on that. They don't let them.
the whiteboard
do that
or
anymore.
whatever it's
Financial- I
called.
can
Gotcha.
understand
is
that,
only
you
like
know,
3/4
whole
of the screen.
Financial whole situation. on it, I
So
get that.
I don't know.
They
But
should
you
have
know,
like
if
a
you're not
pay-
financially liquid,
Hey everybody,
enough
we're
to
gonna get
double
rolling
buy
here.
every game you buy, especially if you're
You
trying
wanna
to
assemble?
experiment between Vive or other technologies and the Quest or the Oculus platform. It's very interesting to try to like, decide, like, all right, how do I split my dollar when it comes to
You're
the
not
kind of
super
enjoyment
loud,
that I
Zach, for
want?
some reason.
Am I gonna
Really?
rebuy
Okay,
that
hang
game
on.
because I bought it a while ago before the Quest even existed, and now I gotta buy it again?
Microphone
I
at
don't know. It's
+3,
tough.
+3.
If you don't
Microphone.
have a gigantic stack of cash,
Is that better, Matt?
it's tough
Yeah.
to double buy a game.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll
Okay.
jailbreak Quest pretty soon, and then
You're on the megaphone, right?
He'll
So we
play
can
your
get as
Steam
far
game.
Yep.
away and still hear you.
On Google
Yep.
feed,
Yeah.
the Quest.
Hey, everybody,
2
we're
has
gonna get
been
rolling.
somehow cracked a little
Think
bit,
it'll
but
probably
as
work
soon
pretty
as I saw
good.
that article, I'm like,
You want me to
well,
moderate
it's
Brock?
Facebook that owns.
Hey, Brock. Hey,
Wireless,
Brock.
so
Hey, Brock.
Yep.
Hey, we're gonna start.
perfect. Wait for that.
We've got a smaller group so far. If you guys want to get kind of in the front couple of rows, I think we probably won't even have to use the moderation tools. But do speak up if you can't hear me or one of the other presenters. Wow, you just went
If
through
you got
that
a
chair.
burp, please mute yourself.
And also, yeah, speak up if anybody's got weird background noises coming through. They can just temporarily mute themselves. But welcome, welcome. If you were at our meeting last month, we had a terrible mishap of the built-in web browser that we rely on to do presentations and slide decks was taken out of Outspace because those feisty hacker kids got a little too uppity. So they removed it and then posted a message on the Outspace blog, which isn't quite popular enough that Google even indexes it when I went looking for trouble solutions. But
Good grief.
there is a replacement here. It's just a lot more cumbersome to use. Although I think the images are at least comparable, and then the videos are definitely sharper than what we were doing inside the web browser. So I think it'll be pretty good. If they don't come up with an automation tool, I'll have to write some like Perl scripts or something to make it a little more tolerable to do all the image
Perl?
screenshots and uploading.
I was going to say, he said Pearl.
Oh, I thought
No,
the Savages wrote in Perl.
Oh, dang. It hurts. One of the weird things, too, is the controls now aren't in my hand or on a separate web browser. There are giant buttons right below the screen, and you can't see them. So every time I or Brad wants to advance a slide, we're going to do this. Next. Here's our first plug of the day, and that is Scott is here. He can talk about it. And now he's teleporting around the room. I'm going to turn off the stage blocker. That's what the problem is.
Oh, you think that's what that is?
Yeah. See
it
if I
happened to
can.
me too. I was teleporting like crazy.
Oh, hang on.
Yeah, if you step backwards into the stage blocker, it teleports you randomly to different spots in the room.
Gotcha. That's what I
Okay,
did.
it's off. Please join me,
Turned
sir.
around to talk to you guys. So I'm Scott Gaff, and I'm I'm still called the chair of the Minnesota Electronic Theater.
You can come up here if you want, Scott.
What's that?
You can come up here and get in front of the camera.
Oh, cool.
The camera is that blue Marty's face.
Oh, okay. Hi, Marty. I'm Scott Gaff. I'm the chair of the Minnesota Electronic Theater, which is almost a 20-year event, annual event that was originally started for the few people in town who were making computer graphic animations and computer graphic cool stuff to look at. A party / showcase for them to show their stuff off. It's now become essentially an animation festival, where because all animations are sort of done with computers, and it's mainly still aimed at the main people who love to come to it and work really hard at it are animators. But occasionally we have some VR stuff and some cool things there. What it has been in the past is a party in a bar where we show, we get submissions from people and we show video, and a jury goes through and picks out the best ones. And we show those videos, and then we usually have a guest speaker from out of town who comes in and talks, and then people drink. Well, we're not going to do that this year. It's going to all be virtual. It's going to essentially probably be what they call a YouTube premiere or a YouTube live sort of thing. We're still but we're still soliciting work from people who make cool looking stuff and would love to have the community see their cool looking stuff. And so this slide here says in the upper right hand corner is the addresses you could go to. We have two of them because Marty has pointed out that the top one doesn't always work if you have an S on your HTTP. If you go to either one of those websites, you'll get a lot more information about what the Met is. And the two things that we're looking for are anybody that's got something cool that we could put into a YouTube video that people would want to watch. We would love it if you submitted it. In past years, you had to pay money to submit things, not this year. There's some new sheriffs in town who are helping me do the Met. Alicia and Emery from Nice Moves, Minnesota, which is a really neat group that sort of replaced the local SIGGRAPH chapter, which is a wonderful community group for people who do motion graphics and animation and all sorts of creative stuff. Anyway, put your submissions in. It's free. Go there and go to that website and it'll walk you through it. The other thing we're looking for is we put together a jury to pick out the best stuff. And this year we're taking applications for anybody who wants to be on the jury. It's going to be pretty much a lottery. In the past, we've had the people who won awards the year before were on the jury. And some people thought maybe that was not a good way to do it. And so we're now going to try something new. So if you want to, and so some dates. The actual event, the showing of the show is going to happen on December 3rd. The more interesting thing is Saturday, October 31st, is the deadline for getting your submission in. And if you go to that website, there's a button there that you push and you can submit something, or to register to see if you can be in the jury. So that stuff, the deadline's on the 31st. And otherwise, on December 3rd, we'd love to see you all. And if you have any questions, you can ask me now or later. You always have a question, Zach. Do you have a question, Brock?
Because I've been a fan
I
for
was
years.
muted. Go ahead,
I
Brock.
love this. Am I already on a mailing list for this or anything, or is there a thing to where you're just always constantly informed about this every year?
And that means you're not on the mailing list, Brock, or you would have gotten a mail about this.
Awesome. Okay, glad I
I'm
asked.
going to take my headset off and go right down to mail Brock and put you on the list. Do I have your email somewhere?
I appreciate that. If you don't have it, it's brock@nanoc.net.
Okay, gotcha. Any other questions? People here have been there before. Oh, go ahead.
Does it take VR submissions or only like 2D? Like
It's
video.
Pretty much if you're going to do it today, I mean this year, last year, this year, and the year before, if you're going to do something, it needs to be a video capture of the experience.
Okay.
What we're going to try to do this year is, and you might have heard us talking about this, is the event is going to be this YouTube video, essentially, that's going to be probably live moderated. What we're hoping to do is to put together a meeting like this, where a bunch of us could get together like we were in a bar and watch that YouTube video. In the future, there may be a VR component to the actual event, but that hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
So that's a very good question. Thank you. And
Yeah.
Zach and Matt and Patrick, you've been to the Met before, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
Is it a good time?
it's a
It
good
is.
time.
Marty's been there too, but I think I always make fun of him there, so maybe he doesn't enjoy himself.
Dang.
It is a good time.
I think the last 3 years I've sort of sat next to Marty.
I don't know what you're talking about. You've never made fun of me there.
Oh, well, okay.
My
No, I
kid has
feel
gone
bad
a
because
few
you didn't
times
rea-
now, even. Maybe just
Yeah.
twice.
Cool.
My kid really enjoyed it too.
Yeah. And
Yeah, it's great.
and go ahead and bring your kids, but they need to be sort of open thinking like Marty's daughter in that it's not always kid friendly. but it usually is. And maybe I didn't warn you
Oh,
about
yeah.
that before, Marty.
I'd been plenty of times.
Thank you very much. If you've got something cool, let me know and plan on watching it.
Cool. All right, let's move on to the next plug. Wait. So, is that readable to everybody in the audience? I was worried about the text on this one.
I
Yep.
can read it.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll just cover this. So, here at MNVR, I picked the fourth Wednesday of every month to do our meetings because our parent group, the IGDATC, meets on the second Wednesday, and I just wanted to space it out. And that was a really good idea up until November and December when there are these holidays every year at the end of the month. So we will not have a regular meeting of MNVR in November and December. We will do some kind of a social thing in between, probably in Rec Room. But if you need your fix, there is this event actually the day before the Minnesota Electronic Theater. And I'm going to be one of the presenters. Marty's going to be one, and Paul Christian is going to be one of them. There's another group in town here in Minnesota. It says it's going to be at the bank. I don't think that'll come to pass. I don't think the bank will let us anywhere near that building. So we'll probably be doing it online. But we're going to cover just unique hardware and uses in VR. Most of my stuff that I've done had to do with Vive trackers on all sorts of suits and mounts and dogs and you name it. And then prior to that, I did a little bit of stuff because I had to using magnetic tracking, and it was awful. Paul Christian's actually built his own data glove, like from scratch. So he's the real hardware guy of the group. And Marty's actually done something that went into the hands of end users. You want to say a few sentences, Marty, with the hotkey? If you're not muted.
Marty did a really cool
Calling me
hockey
out.
thing.
I gotta unmute two places, so it's even more annoying when I have to unmute. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna talk about the hockey game, which was a game I worked on where we strapped a Vive controller to an actual hockey stick, and then I think hundreds of people, maybe thousands of people, played it by now in front of actual hockey games for like 2 or 3 seasons. I can't remember.
At
In
the stadium,
mezzanine
yeah.
of the hockey arena.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun project.
Okay, and then I'll move us ahead to. Why does it
Can I
say
ask
there's
a
5
question about this?
slides? Yeah.
Is this the same group that's having a meeting tomorrow?
Who's having a meeting tomorrow?
I'll go look it up. Again, like I have no... You guys are sitting in front of your computers, and I'm not. I'll go look it up. I thought there was some group that was having a meeting tomorrow.
I
That
think
was
I
the
think it
VR
might
group
be
of
Scott. I'm gonna look it up. I'll tell you in a second.
Oh, yep.
Tom-
Yeah,
Tom's group.
so Tom Anderson, who was going to try to be here, but he isn't here yet, runs these other groups, and they alternate. There's an AR meeting tomorrow.
AR. I'm sorry. I think I'm confusing the Minnesota AR group with the Minnesota VR group.
So it's the same guy, it's the same attendees, but they have 2 groups that alternate months.
Ah, gotcha. I was going to say, I thought it was Tom.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know too much about the thing tomorrow. It says it's exploring Mozilla hubs. But I see Scott's going.
I thought I'd go. I'm a
Yeah.
boring, lonely old man.
You're not boring.
Okay, I'm a lonely old man.
Here's one more. So Rem5, who hosted us a couple months ago, 2 months ago.
Talking about Mozilla Hubs.
Yeah, they couldn't be here tonight because I got the invite out too late. They refused to mark their calendar for the 4th Wednesday of every month ahead of time, and they scheduled some kind of a online comedy test that they're running right now. But they wanted to let you guys know about this event. I think for the people in the crowd, maybe you all have VR and it's preaching to the choir a little bit, but this sounds kind of like a really good time for a group. So let me get the text up here on my screen. So this is obviously on Halloween, Saturday night, 7 to 10 p.m. And if you've never been to RIM 5, each of their VR headsets, they're pretty much all Vive Pros, and the play space for them is, I would guess, about 20 by 20 feet, something like that. Marty, you think, or anybody else?
Yeah, I think that's right.
It's bigger than my basement, smaller than my garage. That's how I would characterize it. So if you've ever been in my garage, almost that big. But you can have a group in there. You can have your own private space. So they have. When they presented 2 months back, they talked about their UV cleaning and all the stuff they're doing there to keep everything safe. And you'll have your own. Yeah, you'll have your own space for the whole night. So I think it's a good time. And then they're just gonna have a bunch of horror games. And if you've never done horror in VR, it's like one of the easiest, most effective things, and probably a good way to kill some of the older people like myself. I refuse to do them after I tried a couple. Horror.
Yeah, horror VR. Yeah, it's different. I'm just saying.
Go ahead, Brock. You got a question?
I'm a jerk for never having looked it up online. I could do that right now, but maybe you already know. How much is it to go and enjoy like a couple hours at a place like RIM 5 or VR?
Yeah, so they're kind of doing these little package deals for Halloween. I don't know their normal prices, but what they're doing here is they're expecting you to do something like a group of 4, and from 7 to 10 p.m. The normal price is $100, and you get 4 drink tickets. And for anybody that says MNVR and HCI or IGDA Twin Cities, as they reserve, they'll knock $20 off, so to you for $80. And for 3 hours, for 3 hours, that's a heck of a deal. And they'll throw in one of the fancy beers.
Maybe if you went to any place in town, it was $1 a minute.
Yeah.
So, that's a pretty good price.
Yeah, that's true.
So they've got a brewery next door, and they got some pizza ovens and stuff. So to kind of make it into an event and a dinner thing.
A little bit of me wonders how much it used to cost, because I never got a chance to try. Back when they had like the older, back in the mid to late 90s VR, how much did they charge people to enjoy VR back then? I'm like, how much did they charge? It's probably ridiculous.
Well,
yeah, I think it was
4 or 5 years ago. It was $1 a minute.
And he's talking about back in the early 90s.
Yeah, those big, huge headsets that like wrap like 2 feet in front of your face or whatever. Not 2 feet, but yeah.
I remember paying $20 and I did like a 3-minute experience.
Right.
And that's back when $3 was your whole meal at McDonald's or Taco Bell. Now it's like $8.
You couldn't pick.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds like $20. And then I seem to recall one bar at the Mall of America before the whole thing went away. It was like $5 at the very end. But yeah, that's seconds worth of entertainment, shooting each other with very simple things, walking around a disc, I think, essentially.
Probably getting sick in the process.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so our next plug will be Patrick, but not Patrick standing near you. This will be giant, loud Patrick coming out of the screen. So
video.
as they changed the browsers, they took away the volume control for media. So if it's too loud, back up, and if it's too quiet, move forward.
Oh my God.
Here we go. Browsers.
So I apologize in advance.
3D Disneyland. This is a book by Dave Bossert, and it features an amazing collection of vintage photos by Ted Kearsley.
Maybe too quiet.
If you aren't familiar with Dave,
Move closer.
He is a former Disney animator. He worked on many of your favorite films from the 90s. Lion King, Nightmare Before Christmas, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid, many more. He's now a historian and an author creating books about Disney history. Dave has given a lot of great interviews about this book and others, and I would encourage you to check those out. But in short, Dave and Ted used to work together as animators at Disney. And Ted was also a stereo photography enthusiast, and he went back to Disneyland many times over the years, bringing his stereo camera, starting in 1955, 3 days after the park opened. So Ted had shown these photos to Dave at one point in their career together, working 25 years ago. And Dave said, hey, we should turn these into a book someday. And this is the result. So that brings me to the Puzzle Fox connection. In early 2019, I was planning a trip to Disneyland with my family, and I had been just, reading and listening to as much stuff as I could to kind of refresh myself on all of this Disneyland history, mostly so that I could bore my family, every 10 steps. I could stop and point out something that is really only interesting to super nerds. So one of my favorite podcasts to listen to is Connecting with Walt, which is part of the Diz Unplugged network of shows, link below. And one episode I was listening to an interview with Dave talking about a book he had written on 1950s Disney studio furniture, which is actually a really interesting topic. And Dave has a book that you can learn all about it. At the end of the interview, he mentioned that he was working on this 3D Disneyland book, and he gave a little bit of history about it. So I reached out to him right away to say, I'm a huge stereo photo nerd and a Disney history enthusiast, and I'd be happy to be a resource if he needed one. So there were 3 ways that I was able to contribute to this book. The first one was in converting Ted Kiersey's original vintage slides into anaglyph images. The next way I was able to contribute was by actually contributing some of my own photos. The third was to convert 2 licensed images of Walt Disney into 3D using modern technology. The images that Dave had picked were images where there was a very strong foreground and background. And so it made it a very sort of clean process to select Walt, select the background, push them apart, and then use liquefy and nudging and perspective shift changes, very, very small ones, to create what was a convincingly stereoscopic image. You can go to oldmillpress.com, or you can go to Amazon, and you can get 3D Disneyland and many other books.
Take my money!
Woo! Yay!
Yeah, good job.
Hey, thanks for playing that. I'll just give myself some claps.
Hey, Patrick, also excellent job on editing and not being a hyper clippy cut. Good job.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. It's hard to.
Can you tell he used to be a professional editor?
I guess I can.
is-
Compliments.
that is true.
All right, it's me.
Go get him, Bradley.
Okay, I'm gonna go up on stage. Oh, all the buttons disappeared. Yeah, I don't know. I can't see the buttons anymore. I don't really know why.
There is no button.
Only Zool.
Is he the right role now, Zach?
Yeah, host tools. I could see the button till like a minute ago.
Just blame Patrick. It's all his fault.
Yep.
Yep, your shirt was green, not your hair, and now it doesn't
Listed as
work.
a host. You might have to be admin also.
Are you with us, Zach?
Zach?
I went mute. So,
Yeah, there's no buttons.
Bradley, if you want to re-enter the space, go to your alt space menu and then
Yeah.
general and re-enter. You do have the correct stuff on the webpage for this event.
All right.
It's under general. There he goes. So this is one of the things I worry about, Scott, if we're streaming a very long video.
Yep.
Various clients will just freak out at some point, and will they auto resume? Will they not?
Yeah,
It's
Zach
not like
said
what
I
happened
crashed
to
the
me at
room
RAM
once.
5.
Yeah, I don't see this. I'm gonna do it again.
Still no buttons for you?
No.
We had a giant Patrick video in the screen and it crashed, and then we got both kicked from the room.
I tried to reproduce that when I was testing with Brad, and it didn't happen. We couldn't make it crash again, which is probably less convincing than if we could make it crash.
Do you see the buttons, Zach?
Yeah, I do see them.
Oh, crap.
Can you push the buttons for him?
I could. That'll be our fallback, I think. Wonder if he restarted. That was probably the next thing to try. I think he restarted alt space. He's not in the world anymore.
He was coming across. I mean, you are coming across really loud.
Yep.
He was coming across kind of quieter. I don't know if that was be part of it.
We have a megaphone thing that we got to remember to turn on. You see him?
Zach?
Yeah,
There he is.
buttons. No buttons.
No
I exited all the
buttons.
way out alt space and rebooted the whole thing.
Okay, let me give you another privilege here. I'll make you a host. You see anything yet?
You have the role of host. Please be responsible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I see my host tools, but I don't see, no buttons.
What the hell?
That is
We,
really.
we checked this like several times.
Yes.
And Zach and
I
I
th-
tested this several times, and it was
Yeah.
yeah.
Isn't that the thing with tech demos? I mean, that's one of the.
Here, I'm gonna change the presentation and then change it back. I'll try that. And after that, I'll just push the buttons for you if that doesn't work.
Okay.
Technically,
sounds good. Yeah, it's pretty simple.
isn't All Space a zombie? All Space VR is a zombie. It was about to die, and then another company bought it and resurrected it, right? Isn't that how it works?
Microsoft owns it.
Microsoft.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's Microsoft Zombie.
I mean, which means it'll be dismantled and, put next to everything else.
Right.
Let's see.
Yeah, but think of all those great Age of Empires games we get now that Microsoft owns it. Yeah?
Well, hey.
Huh.
Oh, I see him. I totally see him.
You totally see him, but it's the wrong deck.
Yeah. Good.
But
Yes.
good news, I pasted the name of the presentation in, and the first time it didn't work, and then the second time it did.
Currently, I'm seeing a black screen.
Yeah. But all we care about right now is buttons. We'll work on the actual content later.
All right.
You see buttons? Brad?
No.
Fuck.
Oh.
Archive that on YouTube. Okay. I guess I'll hit the buttons. There must be
All right.
some kind of privilege thing.
Maybe only one person can have the buttons at a time.
No, we did this test. We tested with two different people, two different
Was
clients.
anybody else
believe
testing
it.
a black
We
screen?
I even tested it like when I got here at 6:30.
Wow.
Oh, okay. I got one last thing. One last step. Then we'll totally give up. I'm gonna reboot the whole room, so you guys will have to reposition yourself. Rebooting room soon.
Not the room.
Here we go.
Just be X.
Oh, those good times. Good times. Good thing nobody's actually watching the stream.
Oh, like you're gonna complain about tech issues, sir.
I came back in
I think
generally
I'm
the
the
same
same.
space, so
Yeah, I did
Yeah,
too.
I did also.
I wonder if this has anything to do with that weird thing I experienced where I disappeared.
Muted.
I came in and other people disappeared, and then the whole thing was gone for 2 seconds, and then everything was back.
It's
I
not
filled
unheard
my
of.
Void while we were testing this.
Network
like
VR,
5%
yay.
rotation difference.
Yay!
Okay, it's just you want to. Oh, I don't know where Zach
He needs a
went.
megaphone.
There, my megaphone's on.
Yeah.
Don't drop the mic until you're done.
That only affected me, huh? It didn't change anything for anybody else?
I could just have the thing on. I don't think
The
I need to
buttons?
hold the mic, do I? But I can.
I don't think you
So-
need to. You're
You tuned on a megaphone for yourself?
Yeah, I got a megaphone on.
You're megaphoning.
Uncle Stage Blocker.
You're definitely loud enough.
Oh. Okay. All right. Let's. You want to click the buttons? I'm happy to talk over it.
Yep, let's do it.
Okay. Cool. You can see I have a YouTube and I have a Twitter. You can find me there or call me or, just hang out. This is my email down there. That's if you ever want to get a hold of me for sweet installation pieces or, or just bad installation pieces too. I do those too. So let's click the button. Click the next slide. We'll keep going. I'm not the best speaker in the world, so hopefully I'm pulling it all together. Oh yeah, I forgot to erase that question mark. So this is the worst thing I've ever made. I almost got fired for this. I'm going to talk about this installation piece I did for the Children's Museum, but there's 2 slides right at the beginning where I wanted to show some really awful things. This is a Vive controller. You can tell because it looks just like a Vive controller. But this is about 2 months before the Puck came out, or the Vive Tracker came out, and I was an engineer at a QA company, but we ended up making a Vive controller, sourced some parts from Triad Semiconductor, did a class with them, and then got some access to the Lighthouse software and started plucking away. And it was, as you can, it's hot glued together. I did all the trig myself, and then I opened it all. I made it all in OpenSCAD and had it 3D printed, and then it almost got me fired, which is cool. So that's my greatest failure. That's but
So
take
why
questions.
did it almost get you fired? Were they expecting something?
Look at this
Yeah.
thing. Looks
Well-
terrible.
Looks like a prototype.
Yeah. I told them it would take 3 months, and then 5 weeks in, they walked into my space and were like, "Why isn't it done?" And I was like, "Well, because it's not." It didn't they just. I don't know that my employers were super happy with me at the time. They just kind of loaded on some extra requirements. They were like, "Why doesn't the Bluetooth work?" And I was like, "Yeah, it barely works. I never program Bluetooth." Why isn't there a battery? And I was like, "Because you didn't tell me to put a battery on it." So that's about it. What's that?
How big was it?
It's about the size of your fist. You can hold this. I always put this thing over my fist and wear it like I have no hand.
Let me know.
Yeah, this is about it. Yeah, but if you ever want an extremely expensive custom Vive controller, I've done it before. So that's it. This is the Vive controller. If you click the next button, we'll look at one more controller here. This one's better. This one I didn't almost get fired for. This is a knockoff PlayStation Move controller. I was working at this same company, and we had a client come to us, this company called Trinity VR. And these are all links, not that you can click them, but they started a business making knockoff Move controllers for the PC. And that was their whole thing. So we started some work with them and made a prototype, an earlier prototype for this. And then I think this is the only thing I have that's no, I guess I have a couple publicly released things now. But this was the first. So maybe about 5 weeks before E3 in 2015, our Trinity VR client came to us with this because they had, man, I don't know who they talked to, but they got Skybound and Overkill and Star VR all wrapped up in this. And so we built about 10 of these, and the front part there is a big oversized ping pong ball. They all like immediately smashed because we sent them to E3 and they immediately were all broken. They actually like put all their fiducial markers and stuff all over them, so we didn't actually they didn't use the tracking part, which is cool because it's fine. It's just a move controller. I'm sure their fiducial stuff is a lot better. There's a TNC in there. The trigger there works. The what is that thing called? The stock works.
You've got one more slide on this one too.
I got one more slide on this one? Really?
Yep.
What's the other one?
TNC.
Yeah. It's a pretty big failure, but I mean, we made money. And it was the first thing I got. It's the first thing I sent to E3, and then it was on like a tested video, which was pretty awesome. I mean, for me at least, like as some junior engineer at the time, which I mean, I guess I still am, but it's been 5 years since this.
And this is a Star VR demo, right? For
Yep.
Walking Dead.
Yep. So if you happen to play that Star VR demo in 2015, then they would like put you in a wheelchair and they would like jiggle you around. And they'd, at some point they would give you this gun and like shove it in their hand, and there's like they'd get some tech to like yell orders at you. The whole thing was pretty good. I never did get to program against like the headset, but whatever.
Next one.
Yeah, that's about it. So these are the two controllers. I just I don't have a ton to say on these. I just kind of wanted to show them off. Zach told me there's some people that do custom controllers and stuff, even though this doesn't have a great place to fit in. Yeah, move on. Next main event here, I guess. So this is what I actually am talking about today. And if you're on the Slack, then you've probably seen me post stuff about this since the beginning of the summer, probably. It took about 3 months to make. The Children's Museum, they actually showed up on Slack too, and I sent him a proposed like work schedule, and they were into it. And so I drove out and got this sign from the city of Crystal. It's a SolarTech Silent Messenger 2. If you want to look that up and purchase 4 or 5 for yourself.
Nice.
If you use 8 of these, you can power a hot tub. Because I did the math. Because I wanted to figure out how much like a post-apocalyptic hot tub would cost.
That's awesome.
Nobody's gonna. I mean, you just got to look for where the market's not.
Was that also in that video with the remote controlled chair, the wheelchair?
Oh no, I don't think this was in the video or anything, but it's cool that somebody remembers that.
Sorry.
So the next slide here is actually your video.
Awesome.
But I killed the sound so you can narrate it live.
Yep.
Here we go.
This video is the same as the other stuff I'm going to show. I made this video for the Ozarks Maker Fair a couple weeks ago. This is us at Lake Phelan. Man, talk about some bad, some bugs. I didn't block the button input, so you press the buttons and then it like assembles a dance sequence, but it didn't block the input, so it added like 1,000 dance sequences, and then my client's like, wondering why it takes 5 minutes to upload, and then it's because I did something wrong. It seems to be working now. There's 4 dances. There's 4 buttons, 4 dances. It prompts you to start, and then you step. I'm moving my feet, as you can clearly see. You press the buttons, and then it makes the dance sequence and builds it out. None of this is really meant to do this. So what it is so it's some foot pedals, some music foot pedals that go into a Windows computer, and they can be programmed just as key types, just as keys. So I made them 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is all made in Java 8. So that sucks up your input, and then uses like the robot library to do some gross automation, where it flips over to this thing called HD Player, which is the software to program this sign that I put in here. So kind of just assembles everything in Java and does that. Runs a little GUI to show myself some progress. And then it flips over to the HD player and loads it all up, and then just does that and runs forever. See some batteries and turning it on. So this whole thing works too. This is what came with it, not what I installed. This is a thing that runs C Linux. I forget. It probably actually says on the screen. But this is all, it's not really hooked up into anything, but it does all still work. So that means it still sucks in all the power from the solar panels and still powers the batteries. And I just kind of rerouted that power to my new LEDs. These are the old LEDs. They run at 4 frames per second. Here's me making some of these signs, making the sign. This is from a company called Huaidu. And I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. They always email me back with, yes, good friend. And then they would give me some cryptic information about how to work this thing. It wasn't that hard to put together, but their diagrams were all wrong, which is, pretty standard, I guess. This is all in my office space. Adding foot pedals here. These are the foot pedals you can see. They do it all come together. Thanks. So I just made this starter art, and it's they just gave me like a piece of paper that their artist had drawn out, and I just kind of started working with that. And we didn't have an artist at this point beyond their concept artist. They had the museum has like a creative director that drew some stuff out and just kind of handed me a piece of paper and told me to start going. And they just they would go dark for a month at a time or more. All this coronavirus stuff had them working, the Children's Museum working so few hours that I think I just fit in the right spot for them, where I was part of an old budget. They didn't have to pay me anymore, and my hours aren't restricted. Like all their hours were restricted, or that it was. I think they're back to normal-ish now. There, you can see that uploading just to that HD player right there. This is our starter animation that first one we did. Just trying to make some basic animations. You can see it's starting to come together. It's actually in the sign now. And I just kind of lined everything here. I hadn't even taken time to clean it yet. Just covered in fingerprints. Oh yeah, I added this super fabric because I rent space from this company, but it's a nice material. It just trimmed it around there. This is me at Berkshire Park. My little Ford Focus that I put a hitch on so I could haul this thing around. It barely survived that last one. It needed some extra aluminum bracing, so it was jiggling apart. So that's the video, and the presentation's basically the same thing. I'm just going to go through it slide by slide, and please feel free to ask any questions you have, because I'm just going to pretty much say the same thing again. This is my first slide. Hey, yeah, Brock, what's your question?
I might as well ask the 3 questions that have come to my mind since you started presenting.
Of course.
How much did this whole project cost? You know, both with including experiments that failed and what succeeded. Like, how much did this whole thing cost?
Or how many hours?
That's my next question. Yeah.
So the cost was I charged them $7,500 for a 2 to 3 month period, and then they paid for replacement parts on top of that. That came to probably $3,000. So I bet they spent about $1,100.
Okay.
The sign itself was donated, so that was a big cost saving for them.
Like with the steel mount with the wheels and axle and everything and all that.
Yep, that's from the city of Crystal. They had an old one they were going to get rid of, and then
Nice.
I don't know what my children's museum contact or who he talks to, but he got it. And then I drove over there and got it. I think one of the selling points was they were trying to get somebody from the Children's Museum to go get it, and they couldn't figure out who could even go get it. And I was just like, I'm just going to go get it.
How much did you say Crystal asked for the sign?
Crystal donated the sign to the Children's Museum,
Oh,
so they saved a lot of money there, I'm sure.
Yeah, nice.
Do you have any
so
idea
the whole-
what the sign would have cost them? Any clue?
No, I don't. I have no idea. Not even a ballpark, honestly.
So it's 6 by 8 of these panels was the whole display.
Is that how many rows do I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I ended up with 7 rows, and then maybe six rows, 6 columns. Yeah, I remember they were even at the end. It's a little bit too tall for what it is now. This whole thing didn't quite fit in the sign, so I just took that top row off. 6 by 6. Each one of those is 16 by 32. First question was money. Your second question was time. Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
I scoped it 2 to 3 months, and it took me all 3 months. I think it took me 3 months and 1 week. I know I was installing stuff in my car to move it around like the day they came to look at it still. There was a little bit of prep time before the coronavirus. So it was about 3 months after the coronavirus, I should say. And then the project had just started and was like a week or 2 in when the coronavirus hit. And they tried a couple other things before the foot pedals. They were more interested in buttons and stuff like that. So we had made some stuff with that. I actually made them a silicon mold so they could they wanted a button that could survive outside. So I took an arcade button, an arcade joystick button, and I made a 2-piece silicon mold to go around it. So my hands, one piece would come up below the joystick to just kind of form fit it, and then it had another big piece that went on top to kind of seal it from the environment. So the only way water would have to get in would have to go up and round in. But I didn't spend that much time doing that really. Maybe a week doing the silicon mold just to 3D print it, and then work with some Mold Max 2020 or 5050, Mold Max 5050. Anyway.
Could you describe the user experience? I'm kind of spinning my wheels a little bit about. I'm in a park and I see this thing. What do I do?
You're in the park, and it's like playing a video that's prompting you. It's like saying, "Hey, come over and make a dance." So you walk up, and there's some barrels. It's 2 barrels. Each of them have 2 of the foot pedals, 4 pedals total. You press like the button once, press one foot pedal, and then the prompt changes. And it's like, hey, we're gonna make a dance. We're gonna record, and it counts down, and then it plays like just a loading screen where it just counts down at 3, 2, 1, and ends your recording sequence. And then it plays it back for you. There's no the loop is pretty incomplete in terms of that. You set your input, it builds the dance, and then it just tells you to dance along, and then it resets. Is that satisfying?
As they dance, they're hitting the foot pedals, and the image is changing. The image is switching between different positions.
Just dance along with no feedback. Just use the pedals to make the dance, and then after that, your input is done. You just dance along with it.
Gotcha.
What coding language did you use to put all this together? I forgot.
This is just Java, and it's specifically Java 8 because that's what the Children's Museum. They have other stuff that works with other stuff, and they're just kind of legacied into that version. So their IT guys insistent upon it. But it was just that. It was pretty simple, like in terms of all that stuff. It was just some UI and using like some automation, using the robot library to kind of automate the second piece of software. Where I, just to review, like it's written in Java, but all the stuff to upload the images and stuff like that, that's all the different proprietary software I have to use. I can't get around, so I have to run an app on a Windows computer, and then upload it all like that. So the Java flips over to the it's HD Player is the application's name. It flips over to HD Player, removes the old image, uploads a new image. Like it clicks the button, and then your file wizard comes up, and I just use keyboard automation to get what I want. Load it in, and luckily the application was simple enough that that loop worked okay and wasn't like terribly broken, as keyboard mouse automation tends to get.
Should we bounce through a few slides here?
Sure.
We're only on 7 of 25. You can't see that, but
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. They're mostly the same things, so hopefully this won't take too long. I made an acrylic shield for it, and it looked pretty good. This picture does, and I immediately broke all the acrylic, and like cut myself, and all the acrylic was removed from the last product, but it's a nice picture as well. Next slide. Like you can see on the bottom left, resolution's not great, but like you can see I already kind of broke it. I put a plywood back on it to kind of keep it from waving around. Moving it all into vertical position was a much bigger feat than I expected it to be, because I am just one person, and this all became pretty apparent to me as I was putting this first sign together. So I actually put two of these signs together, and we'll come back to the second one. Click the next slide, please. This is me removing the old panels out of the Silent Messenger road sign. This green board is the one that controls everything, and I just kind of ripped that out and took its power as all. And it just kicks me an error, but everything works fine without that board, which is pretty convenient. Next slide, please. Everything's out, just very bare. You can just kind of see how the lattice work and stuff all in there. I just take that green LED control board out. Next. Thanks for doing this. Took out that vertical lattice work and just removed all the rivets. and I left the horizontal. I left the horizontal lattice work in there, just because it's really firmly attached. You might not know this, but the Department of Transportation does not want you disassembling their things. Everything's really well stuck in there. Yeah.
I should unmute. Just a quick question: was the acrylic necessary to make sure all the components inside were waterproof or weatherproof?
It was kind of the idea, is to kind of get that on there, but it really didn't work out. This thing itself is waterproof, and I knew it was going into this. So it was mostly to kind of protect the front of the LED. And I did have it in my mind that it was going to all kind of stay with the acrylic, but then the acrylic started breaking, and then I didn't end up going any further with that. Plus, I got all the acrylic for free. Like, somebody just handed me like 3 sheets of acrylic that I didn't have to buy, so I just kind of went with it. Yeah, that's it. Next slide, please. Here's everything. You can see the acrylic's getting more and more broken over time. It's way too heavy to lift, because I realized I have to lift this whole thing by myself. What was actually really good about the acrylic shield, going back to it, was that it let me prototype really fast. Like, I laid all the panels down, and I just took a drill and just drilled holes wherever I needed it. And that I didn't go through the process of making a terribly accurate stencil or anything that I repeated. I just kind of laid it out, put it into place, and then the acrylic was really fast to work with. Like, I dare say I'd work with the acrylic again, even if I don't use it on the final product, just considering how fast it was to just drill through with everything. Next slide, please. Okay, so it's all disassembled. That's the sign's all getting disassembled now. I got some smaller pieces of wood that are just a little bit thicker, and that all kind of worked pretty well. That old acrylic, like I was saying, I just took that old acrylic off and I slapped it down on the new wood, and I just drilled it out and cut it out, and that's what it is. If you'll notice, like in the second sign, that there's a big split, like a big horizontal split down the middle, and that's because it's 2 pieces of wood, and one is bowed out more than the other, so they just don't match. I tried going back in and bracing it with aluminum, and I got better, but it's not ideal. The client was okay with it, but I'm pretty unhappy with that part of it. Next slide, please. So just a closer look at it. Yeah. That's just the same thing as I was saying. Next slide. Thanks. Just testing to make sure everything can get in there, and that it all fits, because there just wasn't that much room, so I was like trying to scrape out like a millimeter at a time until it fit. Next slide. Awesome. Okay, our sign's all assembled and bolted in there, and I spray painted that wood black. Mounted it with some nuts and bolts, and it's got that our first animation on there. Next slide. So we got to this point and realized that the batteries were all broken. They're all old. You can see that they're like wavy, and they just take damage over time, and you're really not supposed to actually expose these batteries to like the elements too much, but this thing sat outside for 20 years. That was probably the most expensive thing for them to replace. Most expensive unexpected cost. So there's 8 batteries in there, and each of them is about $450. And there's these big, beefy 6-volt gel batteries. They're all lead acid batteries, but they use a gel, and they're meant to be used with solar panels. You can use solar panels with like regular batteries, but you lose something along the way. So you have to use these like photovoltaic batteries that capture like the trickle charge better, and there's only a couple people that make them, and they are expensive. Heavy. The next slide, please. Oh yeah, these are the new ones. Yeah, new battery packs. I thought it's a pretty funny name, so I took a picture of it. I'm about to go in there. Next slide, please. So this is the computer that they ended up going with. They bought 4 computers total. The first 2 didn't work out, and this third one did. I tried a laptop that the voltage that the laptop ran at was actually too high. And then I tried a 6-volt stick Windows computer, which just wasn't very good. Like as soon as I updated it once, and then it erased its Wi-Fi driver, which is sweet. And then so I don't know. I keep using that little 6-volt computer, but it is not great. This computer that they ended up with is a Intel i5. This whole thing costs like $350. It's a pretty good deal in terms of like buying cheap Chinese computers. Runs really well. It's probably my favorite one. And a couple small monitors there to kind of hook up the whole thing. Some RAM. I should have put a better detail in there, but yes, it has some RAM. I think it has 8 gigs of RAM. But the thing just chugs along. It's nice. Next slide, please. As you can see me, it's going into the sign. I'm just kind of trying to find some space for it. It looks like I haven't dug out the bottom space yet. I had something to prop up the sign as I put it in there, but I just kind of removed that and then stuck the computer down in that bottom like well below the sign. Next, please. Yeah. All right, we're almost done. Yeah, take it outside. This is a test. Was just to take it outside and leave it there. Yeah. What can I question?
I was just wondering, like, how? I mean, if this is supposed to be outside, how did that little computer hold up? I mean, if it's just kind of one of these little cheap computers, how does it withstand the elements? I mean, even if it's protected around steel, it seems like temperature and so on could kind of get in there, humidity, different types of elements.
Well, it's working. Like I left it outside for 2-3 months to let it at the end of the summer so it got hit with some good storms and good heat and good cold and stuff. That I'm sure that it suffered some damage, but it seems to be working just fine at the moment.
I suppose if you got it all backed up, it doesn't really matter. You just get another cheap little thing.
I do have a second exact copy of the computer, so that if this computer breaks, they can just shove another one in there. Who knows? So it's gonna be like the day it breaks, I won't be there. It'll be some technician, or it'll be some 20-year-old kid who's like just told to run it all day, and now it's broken. So I set up a whole second computer for them that's just an exact copy, and so they can just swap out parts. Because I do have this question in mind too. I have no idea how long that computer is going to last. That thing inside that sign is very warm. Very warm. Like 110 degrees consistently.
Wow.
Yeah, the power supplies for the LEDs run hot. Some of them you have to specifically have HVAC.
these LEDs were pretty warm. They don't actually have the power supplies in them because it's just drawing it all off of from the sign itself, and that's all the batteries and stuff that are in those wells at the bottom.
Yep.
But the LEDs do get pretty toasty. I could tell, like, well, taking the old stuff out, that all those old LEDs, they did not get hot at all. They maintain their temperature. Just a small note. Next slide, I suppose. This is what this is what the application looks like. Yes. Add buttons 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can see it's some cool Java. It builds a GIF. We kind of went back and forth a lot about, like, whether it was going to be a sequence of images that the application assembled together, or whether it was like a video, or whether it was a GIF. And in the end, the GIF ended up working the best. It had a reasonably consistent upload time. I was having a ton of problems with just making the video by itself and keeping it so it wasn't compressed. I'm trying to remember the command. I was using one of the command line video editors. I should remember the name of it. I've used it a million times.
FFmpeg.
That's it. There you go. But it was, no matter what I did, no matter how many times I told it to not compress the video, it was compressing the video all weird, and then it was displaying all weird, and so, but it wouldn't do that with a GIF. So we ended up going with a GIF. What else is on here? Yeah, it does time. It just kind of collects timestamps as you hit the foot pedals, and which didn't end up being relevant because it plays back the sequence, and all the sequences are pre-timed. But yeah, that's it. That's the application. Hit that next button one more time. Well, yeah, Java 8. That's what cool people program with. Yeah, use the robot library for automation. It was the first time I used that library. Use this. This is the HD player. This is what actually uploads everything. So the automation comes in there and it hits the trash button, trashes that image, hits the plus button, adds a new GIF, the GIF that had been assembled. I just found somebody's GIF assembler library for Java, and then used that, and it's working pretty well. The whole thing was pretty straightforward. I'm really happy that this part worked out, because automation is I just get so sketched out by doing automation like this. It's definitely the last option. With that, next sign, please.
And the final slide.
Yeah, okay. So these are the barrels. You walk up to those barrels and they kind of hit them. You hit them with your feet. The wood on the bottom is not holding up. That is rotting right now. I have to do something about it in the spring, I suppose, because it's all shut down for the winter. But yeah, wood on the bottom. Use some Loctite spray foam, which was really effective, but really terrible looking. A simple USB extender is all that it comes out. It sends the USB from the Windows computer. It goes into a hub, and then that hub is just wrapped up with electrical tape to protect it. That's about it. That's it. That's what I spent the summer working on. Thanks for taking the time to retake the journey with me.
Got any final questions? Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's so weird to not have the feedback.
Yeah, you got a question?
What foot switches did you use? Where'd you get them? How'd you find them?
I got them on Amazon. I'm trying to. I typed in musician's foot pedal. I can post it in the Slack or something, but they were the first thing.
Okay.
I don't remember the brand name. It's like IKEO or something.
What'd they cost?
$15 a piece, I
Nice.
think. $20 a piece. I noticed they raised the price while I was buying them by a couple dollars.
Well, that's how Amazon works. Once you've initialized interest, then the price starts to go up.
Mhm.
Right. Airline model.
Yeah. Any more questions? You can tell me that I suck too if you want. Just raise your hand and tell me that this whole thing's terrible.
Are you hanging after the whole meetup?
I'll be here till 9, but I told my wife we would leave at 9, so I got to get out of here at 9.
But you're usually in the Slack, right?
Yep, I'm always in the Slack. You can email me at that
I'm
fine
gonna
email
email
down
you.
at the bottom. Yeah, go for it. I love talking to people.
What are you on
Right.
Slack?
What am I on Slack? My name.
Oh,
Just my-
okay. Okay.
Brad
I wasn't
something
sure
or
if you-
other.
maybe Phobos.
This is awesome. This was
Thanks.
really
Yeah,
great.
it is.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
really
Thank you.
cool.
I appreciate it. The kind of getting the gameplay loop and explaining it's always kind of rough. So, I think my favorite thing about this is that it's big and
Yeah.
gaudy, and somebody gave me some time and money to do it. So it's been working out well for me, kind of leveraging the next contract work that I'm looking for. Always trying to hustle work. If anybody wants something, anything even close to this. And heck, the thing I did after this was like a AR.js demo for somebody, so it was like completely different. Oh yeah,
I got a question.
sure.
How many people have used it, do you think?
About 6,
Oh,
like
okay.
not a lot.
Is it going to go to the Children's Museum, or is it going to go to a park, or like what's the plan for it?
Yeah.
It's up to them. They're storing it with me until the spring, because it's not going to go in the museum. It's too big to go in the museum, so they want to bring it places. So I'm the storage spot until they decide. Yeah, Brock. Yeah.
If you were not limited to Java 8, what would you have coded this in?
Oh, I mean, probably Python, just because it's faster to. But I've been writing Java for a long time now, so I'm secretly thrilled anytime anybody wants to do anything in Java. But nothing, I've used the automation stuff, the keyboard and mouse automation stuff in Python before, and it works as well as anything else that does that. And
that was done because the control software for the screens, right? You didn't want to mess with that. So you just basically had some tools that clicked buttons and did things to upload the content to the screen controller.
I had to do it was really out of necessity, because I didn't have a programmatic way to update the HD player software, and I contacted that company to try to find out some ways, see if I could get anything out of them, but nothing. I mean, it's just some MQTT or CoAP or something that they're using, I'm sure, but.
What kind of music do you like?
What kind of music do I like?
What are you into?
I've been listening to a lot of the Me First and the Gimme Gimmes lately. Kind of roll around stuff, but I don't know. Suburb punk is kind of always okay.
Okay, we'll probably move ahead here. We're at 8:30, so
Cool, thanks. I'm gonna
move
get
on
off
to
the
the
stage.
questions. Yeah, thanks.
The wrong one.
It's really good. I'm glad we got it to work this month.
Appreciate it.
Let's see here. Please work, please work, please work. Okay. So,
Hey, Zach, I see the buttons.
who sees the buttons?
Matt, but I didn't see the previous buttons.
Yeah, I see the
So
buttons
there's
now.
something about that presentation list that got broken somehow. I wonder if there's some way I accidentally edited it, because literally that exact same list has not been updated since yesterday, Brad, and earlier this afternoon when it did work, whatever.
That's bizarre.
So we were actually gonna kind of talk about two things. I think we can kind of blaze through them both. Going to talk about kind of Quest 2 reviews, and then I was gonna what number is that? 11. I just have some quick slides on optimizing Wi-Fi for Quest 2 for kind of unusual circumstances. I think it'll be of interest to a fair number of folks. How many Quest 2 owners do we have in the audience? Matt. Patrick, you don't have one?
No, we
Marty's got one.
I've been not spending money. We had 2 mortgages for a while.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I was on
Gaffy-
the moratorium.
Gaff, you got a Quest 1 or Quest 2 or both?
I haven't gotten my 2 yet. I'm pretty sure
It's on
I'm
the way.
gonna-
Okay.
Probably gonna give my 1 to Russell.
Yeah. And then is anybody thinking about
I
getting
just
it?
invested a lot in my music gear.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think there's a rush. It's brand new tech. It's got some things that need to get sanded down. So
Got
I don't think
power
there's.
issues.
It's got some things. We'll cover them real quick.
Power issue?
I don't have slides for the main thing, but maybe Marty, you probably can't jump up here, but I'll give you guys megaphone if you just want to start chiming in. I think we can just run through kind of the best things about it, and then the iffy things or the worst things about it. Let me give you guys some loudness here.
There are only 7 of us. We can all sort of hear each other.
I think I have loudness already. I'm not sure.
Matt, I can't give it to you because you're privileged now, but you can give it to yourself.
Privilege.
I can hear you all fine.
And Marty is muted. May not even be there inside that blue body.
I'm unmuted now.
And now you got megaphone.
Whoa. Were you asking me a specific question?
No, I think we just want to hit on all the high points and the low points, and maybe start with the high points. For me, it's the screen. It's the resolution of the screen, and that it has all the subpixels, all the red, green, blue for every pixel. So it's got 150% of the pixels in Quest 1, but it's got 200% of the subpixels, because Quest 1 would omit every other red or blue, and you get kind of a denim effect when you look at things. And that's okay until you try to do text or black and white work, and then everything looks like it's been dithered. But
It definitely looks
you guys have
better, like significantly better. I think it's probably
Yeah.
the highest resolution headset I own now.
well, it's higher than the Index slightly. It'll come in just underneath the HP one. What's that called? Reverb. It's nutty that it's higher than the Index. But
Yeah, it's nice for sure.
then maybe the con to that screen, they switched from OLED to LCD, so the black level is not in the same ballpark at all.
I will say this, Zach, that I believe that my experience has been, if you run the Oculus Quest 2 over Oculus Link, it is not as dark as if you run a native app on it.
Oh, weird.
And
It doesn't
I
know
think
about the color space.
And I think the color space is off, and I think the video compression is fucking with the gamma.
Yeah.
So it's
I
not.
was gonna say gamma setting.
The
That's-
combo
And,
of that is that I happen to be working on an app that's almost completely in darkness, and when I run
Oh.
it in the editor over Link, it looks gray, and when I run it as a native app, it looks black. So
Are you using the color space API?
I am using the color space from the latest version of the Oculus integration.
Yeah. Sounds like a mistake then on the Link side.
Well, I know that the Link side is not finished, and that's why it doesn't support 90 and other things, and it does flake out sometimes too.
Yeah.
Is
And
there any big
I'm
difference as far as the cable you actually use to link?
No, it uses this. You can either use this. I think the same the recommended anchor cable or whatever Chinese version that's close to that. And then the recommended obviously is the Oculus Link cable if you're rolling in dough and you want the Primo cable.
And
I don't know. I still think it's worth it. It's $80. You know, obviously not everyone thinks it's worth it, but it is significantly faster. It starts up faster. It's a lot more flexible, and it's lighter and longer.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of, it hits a lot of points that you're not getting if you buy a $14 cable. So I don't know.
I'm just
right,
annoyed
it's
there
kinda-
isn't
kinda
a $14
gaga.
cable that does all that now. Seems
yeah,
like
that's
there
weird.
should
I
be.
wonder if somebody will pick up on that. They use some exotic components, which is why there isn't an easy one, because they go copper to optical to copper in that cable.
Are they in supply now for the actual Oculus cable?
I think so.
They
Yeah,
were out of
everything
stock
goes
when
in
I
and out
first
of
tried to
stock.
shop for one.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
And,
If COVID kind of made it seem out of stock for like 4 months or plus.
Parts of Reddit are kind of gaga for using Wi-Fi to do wireless Quest PCVR. That's kind of what I got these slides behind me for. So we'll cover that a little bit later. We can just leave that out now. I was going to say, too, on the black level, I think it's because I've only used OLED headsets since, I was trying to figure it out today, since like 2014, since the Oculus DK2. So I've never seen anything other than black, black, black. Sometimes too much. That used to be how it was. So when I play like Darth Vader or Minecraft, I don't read it as this is a dark room on a low contrast screen. I read it as there's like fog in here. There's a lot of fog in this dark room.
Vader was really bad for me on the Rift S also, which is also
Yeah.
LCD.
There is a hidden brightness setting on the Quest. If you install anything that can open the Android control panel, there's an app on SideQuest. You can drop it to about, I don't know, I'd say 60% for the black level.
And I was thinking that would actually help because I think the screen's actually a little too bright in general. But
Yeah, it helped me for, it's not officially supported or anything, but it definitely helped me for the
which
Darth
is dumb
Vader game.
because the Go actually had a brightness setting. That was the
I bet you they'll put it back
standalone
in.
headset that had it.
Yeah,
They should.
but okay, so that's the screen.
I wanted to say something about Vader for a second since it came up.
Yeah.
You and Scott talked to me about Vader for a little while and said there's something up with the size of the heads. They were too
Yeah.
big. So I know. So one of the IGDA dudes from Portland is the dude making that game, or one of the dudes. So I told him, I was like, hey, they told you the heads are too big, and then he got really frustrated. So I just wanted to say that the big head comment has been communicated to the guy who makes it. He doesn't know what you're
Nice.
talking about.
So I think it was me that brought it up, and what my problem is that the heads seem too small. Like when you're standing next to
Oh,
any
too
of the other
small.
humans, yeah, when you're standing next to them, they don't have like whatever the general is that's in there. I can't remember his name. The one that
Yeah, metal face.
metal face. When you're standing like next to him, his head is like, 20% smaller than I would expect as a human.
Oh.
So it looks
We
like
got
a watermelon on a toothpick. You know what I mean?
They're gonna make me
Just
bigger
because it's
now.
like, I don't know. But then,
Or even smaller.
No,
Even
and
smaller.
then by contrast, you look at Vader, and he's got like 400-pound pauldrons.
Right.
He seems at least proportionally right, but he's super
Yeah.
wide for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think he
Just,
got really
and then the
frustrated
combo
about
of those
this
different
'cause,
scales.
I think he got really frustrated at this because like Disney controls the proportions on that stuff really specifically. He's like,
Oh.
no,
Yeah.
they're really pedantic. You can guarantee that they're all the right size.
And I think that stormtroopers felt okay, but it was just there's a few humans that were near you, and like the natives of the planet were just like they're just, I don't know. I've seen it happen a lot, where just whatever it is, my brain's interpretation of what a human scale is, and a lot of the things I see in VR don't match. So
Hey,
Maybe
this
it's
is
just me.
this is neither here nor anywhere. But does anyone else was anyone else surprised to have the second and third editions in their libraries? I'm 90% sure I didn't buy them, but they just appeared in my Oculus library.
Did you
I
did you buy
I don't
Quest
think
1
I
at the right
bought any
time?
of-
Interesting.
For a while they were included with the purchase of the device,
That must be.
and I think
bought
Zach
one
and
or
I
two.
got them both free or all free because of Oculus Connect. But
Oh, I didn't get them. I got the first one.
Yeah, I distinctly remember
Okay.
the first one. I had the first one, and then I was gonna have to buy the second one, and I was like, oh, I'll do that when I feel like playing it. And then I just went and looked, and I have the other two now.
I wonder if that was from going to Connect.
I didn't go to Connect.
Oh, I thought you did.
No.
Yeah, that's right. You haven't ever gone. Yeah, there was a Quest 1 bundle, but it was real specific timing last year, I think.
yeah,
We just love you, Marty.
Maybe.
Yep, that's it.
I don't
VIP.
know.
Well, and for those
Well,
of
it's
us
a-
who never went to Oculus Connect, we'll never get to go to Oculus Connect.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Facebook Connect now.
That's right.
So this is a really struggling for the segue, but one of the reasons that sometimes scale can seem off is if the IPD physically doesn't match your real world IPD of your eyeballs, and that's one of the things I was most scared about on Quest 2 is there's only 3 fixed IPD settings, and the largest one
there's-
it's still smaller than my eyes.
There's 5, Zach.
Well, there's you can force it in between it to any level, but I'm curious if anybody else had trouble with that, or
This
How many
worked good
people-
for me?
how many people have you actually put into the headset that you'd have to change that, or do you forget to change it?
Well, so far it's just been me because I don't hang around with people.
Yeah, yep.
And
COVID
I have put it on my 4-year-old and my 6-year-old at the lowest IPD setting, and so I've had to adjust it and then adjust it back for myself. But that's
Yeah.
about it. Just those 3 people. And it's not really even hard. Like I just and actually I can use setting 2 pretty much fine. It's just that it gets a little sharper when I use 2.5 because
Okay.
my center of my eye just is out of some of the curvature of the lens basically, and so it gets a little less blurry. It's
Yeah.
only blurry at like at the inside and at the outside, and it's just because of the IPD is not perfect.
Yeah, so the 3 settings are 68, 63, and 50. Is that right? 58? Are they all 5 apart, is what I remember? I definitely know the high one's only 68. But if you read it here in AltSpace by popping up the Oculus API, it's 68.3 millimeters. And then if you stick your thumbs into your headset and shove the lenses as hard as you can apart, you can get it to like 63 and a half. Or 68 and a half, sorry. But that's what Matt's alluding to on Reddit. There was this wonderful discovery that if you just slide it part way between the settings, then it's part way between them.
It definitely locks at fixed intervals,
Yeah,
but it will stay in between. So you can just go part way and it will stay there.
and the
Did they
Oculus Go.
display the IPD when you would do any kind of adjustment like that? Because it seems like
Nope.
they updated that. I'm playing with my Quest 1 right now with my IPD, and it'll pop up a heads up that tells me
Yeah.
what I'm adjusting my IPD. That wasn't when the
That is
Quest 1
correct.
first
it was
came
not
out.
in there initially, but they added it eventually.
Yeah,
So the new Quest 2 doesn't have any display like that at all?
they took it away. It's too
Okay.
It has
complicated.
Interesting.
it has an old school display. There's a number etched into a piece of plastic, and you slide it,
Ah,
and it is
okay.
thus revealed.
Good.
But there's Oculus APIs that read out from the software, and there's one here built into AltSpace under the video settings.
And the deal is that the mechanism can still tell how much that you've moved it, even if it's not locked into the 1, 2, or 3 position, and so it will still update how it draws to that single LCD in a way where it doesn't cause any weird problems. At least in my testing so far, I haven't had anything weird happen.
And then probably the next biggest thing I would think is the GPU and CPU. I've been really happy with just the high resolution and the GPU keeping up with it. And Matt, you've actually done some porting to Quest 2.
Yep. So I ported a desktop VR experience that we did for 3M, and it was originally written for a 980 Ti. And when I first ran it, it ran at 5 frames per second, which is what I would expect. But the PC VR one had 0 optimizations because it just didn't need it. You know, it was running at 90. It was originally for OG Rift, and it just ran fine. So it didn't require any, effort really put into it to do that. And I basically, through just basic optimizations, which you should do for Quest anyway, which is mostly just draw call optimization, like combining meshes, texture atlasing, texture arrays, just stuff like that. Right now it's running, all the UI screens and everything are running at 72 just fine, and like all the gameplay is actually running at 60-ish, 60 to above 50 all 100% of the time. And that actually seems still really good on the device. It wouldn't let you ship it to the Oculus store if you were running at 50, 60 frames per second, but with the time warp filling the gaps, it still looks perfect, so you really can't tell the difference. But yeah, I would say you can still, because it's a mobile device, you can still throw too much geometry at it and make the GPU cry. Like if you throw 2 million polys on it with a random amount of texture, all different textures, basically it'll still cry. But overall I've been super impressed with both the CPU and GPU performance.
And on the CPU side, RJ wasn't able to make it tonight, but he had kind of said he's got those really fancy a fancy arena fighter with a lot of physics and a lot of physics interactions and collisions,
active ragdolls and stuff with
and he was able to double the number of enemies without having a problem. So
that's generally been the case, I think, in most of the released apps. They've been saying they've been able to increase the resolution and add all kinds of stuff. My particular experience also has 7 real-time dynamic lights, which is insane to me that it actually runs. And it doesn't self-destruct. So
7?
So it is a simulation of retroreflective materials, and so it is impossible to do it with baked lighting because they're simulating the headlights of the car striking like road signs and road markings and things like that. So all the lights have to be done in real time. And Unity lights don't 100% match with the spread and the light intensity of a headlight, even with like a cookie or something on it. So what I have to do is basically have 2 lights that are like for the long distance and 2 lights that are kind of illuminating the road signs, and then 2 lights that are kind of illuminating the road markings. And so they're spotlights that are stacked like that, and their angles are adjusted so they strike the surfaces in the right way, so that you get the same feeling as if you're driving down the road and you're looking at retroreflective signs, that the headlights are striking them and lighting them evenly, like as you would expect. And so I do have them masked so that they will only affect certain things, so that it's not like 7 lights just going full out on everything in the scene. But just the fact that it runs with even 2 is amazing, because I'm pretty sure it wouldn't on Quest 1, but I haven't tested it yet.
So I'm trying to think of any other major things. I've had a couple of small things. Well, I guess major thing, especially in terms of noise, is the Facebook login. It's completely cemented the fact that you can't use the Quest subreddit for anything. You have to vet every single person that's speaking, because they're all just a bunch of spazzes that can't even read the source article that they're linking to. Yeah.
And they start parroting the doomsday versions of everything, but I don't know. It's still...
There are legitimate problems. There was one guy that laid it out piece by piece. He set up a new account. Then he found out his wife had his phone number as a backup on her account, so he asked her to remove it. And then something, the Facebook robot shut off his new account. And he had to go through support to get access to his Quest again. So there are definite problems, but it's not the huge doomsday thing that everybody's saying. And even though I'm on video here, I will go on record in this tiny record that's probably not going to get scraped by Facebook and say that if you're friends with me in Oculus, you'll notice my last name is Oculus. If you're friends on me in a free-to-play Android game, you'll notice I have a totally different name there for my Facebook account. And Oculus actually started requiring Facebook accounts a year ago to do friend activities when Gaff and I were trying to find each other's. Yeah, so it's been good for a year. But I think they're on super high alert now because of all the social media stuffing that's going on with the election and everything like that. So
yeah,
it's not nothing.
What's happening is a side effect of just the general state of social media in the political things that are going on. So, but people are correlating it to just them being dicks about VR and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I get the concern, but it's still.
Well, the fact that it's required at all is just a bunch of BS. I mean,
it is.
Yeah, it's totally architected. It's for a specific reason, you know.
Yeah, it seems designed for a future that they want to have unfold.
Yep.
And a lot of it shouldn't and doesn't need to be a requirement. They're just choosing to make it a requirement.
Yep.
A lot of people think it's a sudden effort to avoid being broken up easily and separated into different parts by Congress or somebody else.
Like they're just looping everything
Germany.
all together.
Yeah.
I have a little bit more sinister take on what it might be about.
Sure.
I can't remember if this was shared in Slack, and it might have been shared by you, Zach, so who knows. But I read an article about how there was a research paper or project that was able to correlate your movement in VR, just like you can do, like you can watch somebody walking, like a video of somebody walking, and you can correlate that to the person, like with like some huge amount of accuracy, like 97% accuracy or something.
Yep.
They were able to do exactly the same with just your motions in VR. So they knew without like any sort of accounts or anything, just by the motions of the player, to like some high accuracy, which player it was after some amount of data, right?
Yep.
So this is a sort of a dystopic like version of the future where Facebook knows everyone who logs in to VR knows who they really are based on their, like user data or whatever.
Well, and those motions apply to any third-party, WebXR app.
Yep.
That you go into, and Facebook doesn't need it because they're forcing the stupid login that's been supposedly authenticated to a human.
Right, but so in theory, like in this dystopic future, you log into some other account, and they know still know it's you, right?
Yeah,
so they're still able to.
Unless you start walking like a Dr. Seuss character.
Yeah.
So my question to all you Oculus 2 users: do you all have like double Facebook accounts now, or?
You can use the same one.
Well, so I had, I probably have like a stack of 5 Facebook test accounts from literally like 2007 or something, and I just loaded up the first one and logged in with that.
So there is also, and they talked about this a bit, I think during Oculus Facebook Connect, that so there's just like when you're doing Facebook development, you can generate a developer account, like a fake account, and you can use those on the Quest, but there's specifically you can use them for testing things. So like if you were to want to test an app purchase or test like buying your app or things like that, like they can be used for that purpose. So
and they can't see the real store.
You can't see the real store. It's not 100% feature complete, but it does allow you to use the device and test things. So it's kind of I believe that also works on regular Quest as well. It's not a Quest 2 specific thing. But.
That's interesting. I didn't know that was a thing actually, and I'm 98% sure these accounts that I have are from before that. existed.
Yep, this is brand new.
Real accounts.
Right.
So would you guys recommend having a different account from your registered as a developer with Oculus Facebook?
They
Would you
want you to
recommend
have
having a
this-
separate account.
officially
from
they want you to have the same account, but if you are going to go
even
make
as a
new
developer
account,
or a registered developer.
yeah, if you're going to make a new account, you definitely have to use a different email address. You definitely want to use an incognito browser. I don't know how they would ever piece together that there wasn't a sibling of yours that just made a new account. But especially before the election here, I don't think I would monkey around with it too much.
I don't think I'd do it now. Yeah.
We did some work with Facebook on the Go and the Quest before it came out. And a fun detail of that was all our QA people had to they had to use Facebook as their ticketing system because Facebook uses Facebook as its Jira. So then you have to log in with your real name, and then so my coworker would post a bug, and then nobody would respond, but 17 people would like it. That's my story.
That's
Pretty
good.
awesome. Let's run through the rest of the bits on here real fast. So Quest 2 can run at 90 hertz, but out of the box, everything's at 72 other than the browser and the home screen. You can use SideQuest to force an environment variable, which in Java is a property, and that'll force every app that's able to go to 90 hertz, and VR Desktop's one of them. And you guys hear me still?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, the sound just changed. Like I said, there's also a way to lower the brightness if you go SideQuest. And one of the things that's still sadly dear to my heart is playing Minecraft in VR. And according to Reddit, I was the first person and only person that ever got it to work on Quest 2. Brad, you're raising your hand, but I think you might be muted or something.
Sorry, I don't have a question. I'm just leaving and I wanted to say goodbye.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Have a good night. Thanks
Bye.
again.
All right, job, thanks.
Nice meeting you.
That's probably my other beef with Reddit right now. Is I said, no, there's absolutely nothing special that I did. I went to the Gear VR store, downloaded the APK, copied it to the PC, copied it to the Quest, and, well, not even copied, I installed it on the Quest, and then I was done. That was it. And you get these great answers like, no, it didn't work. Yeah, which part of those 3 steps didn't work? But
Well, it's when they went to the torrent site and downloaded the
Exactly,
spyware
yeah.
version,
yep.
and then they installed it on their device, and now their device is infested with something that's not
But,
Minecraft.
The Go and Gear VR stuff still works, even though they officially dropped support. What they actually did was just hide it from the menus inside the Quest 2. So if you pick a title like Lands In that they did officially support on Quest 1, and then you install it on Quest 2, you're like, where is it? And then you use your ADB tools, and it's like, yeah, it's totally there. You're like, well, how do I launch it? And then you go look up the obscure way to find the ADB command line to launch it, and then it runs fine. But stuff like Minecraft that's not supposed to be there, it just shows up in your unknown sources.
Somebody commented out the line of code that draws the button.
Yeah. So somebody went to the developer and said, hey, we don't support Go apps, I guess. And the developer's like, if Quest 2, don't show menu. Yep. So, yeah. And then the only other major comment, again, because I wanted to use a gamepad, Bluetooth all kinds of wacky on Quest 2. When I first got it, I paired my Bluetooth keyboard. Everything was great. And I started pairing my wireless Xbox One controller, and it was not great. They got on Reddit, and basically nobody was able to do it. And then once I had attempted doing it, I no longer could pair my keyboard. And then I got on Reddit and looked at that. And then I decided I was kind of lucky because there's people out there that unpaired their controllers, the Quest controllers, and then could only repair one of them and not both. So don't unpair your controllers. Wait for the next OS update. But wired USB stuff works just fine. Maybe that's a segue to my...
Does it require a USB to go cable?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really wacky in that way. There must be something about Android 10 or the new chip or something. Like, there's... I didn't put this in my slides, but there's an Android version of ADB Because once in a while I just don't have a PC laptop laying around. And in theory, like, how would you hook a phone into another phone that's a headset with a cable, and then run a debugger on the phone that's talking to the other phone? But it works, and I just use the charging cable that came with it, just USB-C on both ends. So, I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that app unless you're really in a pinch. The one thing I use it for now is triggering 90 hertz mode, because if you restart the headset, it goes away. And that'll be official soon enough. So we move on to the slides here, maybe. I'm gonna have to be farther back, actually. Let's see.
One
might
other
want-
thing I've had issues with on Quest 2 is just the batteries a little wonky.
Oh yeah, talk about that. Yeah.
So the first time I have the battery strap. So I have the pro headset strap with the battery built in, and I had it like fully charged, and I let it sit overnight, and when I turned it back on, like the headset was at like 50% charge and the battery was like dead. And I was like, how can that even happen? You know, it wasn't, and
Yeah.
it was turned off at the time.
Well,
I've
it
had
was
some intermittent
it was in
kind of
standby, right? Standby.
No, it was off. It was
Shut
completely
down?
Off. Shut down.
Oh, so it trickle charges itself that much overnight. That's crazy. That's
So
not good.
And I did a test. My latest test was last night, and with it completely off, and with the headset at 100% charge, it sat probably 10 or 12 hours, and when I checked it, it was like at 86 or 87%. So it
Yeah,
wasn't as
wow.
bad, but that's still a pretty. So it's like in a weird state where it's still trying to charge the headset, even though the headset's off. And you can, I don't know if anyone else has noticed this, but if you touch the button on the Quest 2, when it's powered off, it turns the screen on, and it shows the battery levels for both the extended battery and the onboard battery. And so it's doing something that, you know, and I've never had this behavior with Quest 1. Like usually, obviously, well, I didn't have an external battery plugged into it overnight either, so that was kind of a difference. But it just seems like it, you know, so basically when I put it away now, I have to disconnect the USB-C cable from the battery, because when I do that, it's fine. Like both will go 24 hours or so without even any loss if it's off completely. You know. But it's just the measurements I've taken, and there's a Slack post on there that I've put on there for a bit, and a few other people have added some comments to it, but it just seems like it, you know, it uses more power, and the battery behavior is a little buggy, I think. Just whatever that's doing the battery or power management is not the greatest software yet. So that's the only weird thing. The other thing is that if you plug it into the Oculus Link cable on the Quest 1, it would just charge and be fine. But Carmack posted that he would expect that the battery level continues to go down until about 60%, even on the high watt USB ports. And so, you know, you're not going to be, you know, you're losing battery life essentially, even while you're using it, which just seems different than Quest 1 also.
But only to 60%. Then he said it should be steady.
And I wonder why 60%. I wonder what's going on there.
I'm thinking it's another thermal constraint, because you do, as you do the last part of the, you know how they always say like, hey, this new phone charges to 60% in 3 seconds, and then the other 40% takes like a year. As you get to the top of the lithium-ion batteries, they get less and less efficient at taking a charge. So that could be like I can decode link cable and not overheat amount of battery. Hey, Carlos.
That's probably it, actually.
Yeah. We're just
Hey,
doing good. And Matt, you haven't seen any of your strap cracking stuff that Reddit's freaking out about this week? It's Reddit. You never know. I mean, some amount. Oh, cool. Yeah, Oculus Virtual Audio driver. Yep. Yeah.
Somebody commented out a line of code.
Well, here, let me try to. What's that? We just got a tiny bit left here. Actually, I had like how many slides? 10 slides on the virtual desktop wireless link. You want to see those?
Please.
Okay. Let me get rolling on that quick. I'll just blaze through it. Maybe a preamble. So I've never been into Wi-Fi. As far as I'm concerned, Wi-Fi is what you use if you don't care about things working well. There's a lot of Ethernet cables run through my air ducts in my house, which is against code. And then, like, my kids and my wife use Wi-Fi constantly. But this virtual desktop thing was finally enough to push me to dig into it a little bit, because the Quest 2 is good enough for text, and that's kind of interesting. So, as far as the capability. So this is virtual desktop. I can't even see my own slide from here. There we go. It's been around since Gear VR, but it was just a joke. Oculus Go had a pretty good screen, but again, it had a fixed IPD, so it was a no-go for me. And Quest 1, like I said, had the pen tile screen that made everything look dithered. It was really bad for text, good for other things. And then finally here on Quest 2, like, text is good enough. You can position a fake virtual monitor, 3 feet away from you like you would a monitor, and do a normal amount of work at 1080p or 1440p, whatever you like. That's a picture of a video that I can't click on because we're using the new virtual thing. Let's see if I put it into the stream here. Oh boy, I did. This is just a promo video. So, like I said in that slide, virtual desktop has 2 uses. The official main use, as seen in the store, is working on your PC on a big virtual screen. And you can use your controllers, you can use your hands, you can use a keyboard and mouse. It'll pass them through. And there's some kind of fun stuff. But I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a flavor of what it could do. There also is a PC version. I know we had somebody in the Slack here that was talking about that. I've never used that because I don't know why I would. If I'm on a PC, I'll use a monitor to do a virtual desktop to another monitor. But it does need a pretty good PC, pretty good graphics card. In 2D mode, you don't need a good graphics card. You need a pretty good CPU, and you definitely need good Wi-Fi. Not necessarily top of the line, though. So let's keep the 2 use cases separated. The first one, the official one, is, think of it as 2D mode. You are literally streaming a version of your desktop into VR. I would say that'll just work for basically anybody that tries it. It can go very low on the bandwidth, and if you're doing anything kind of normal on the PC, it can go under 1 megabit of actual use bandwidth. And if you're watching a video, it might get up to like 20 or 30 megabits. But again, if you're watching the video, why are you doing it through virtual desktop and not through the Oculus browser? Maybe it's just real convenient to do it that, you just clicked on a video really quick on your desktop. But and also time warp. Time warp is the compensation. So when you turn your head, the VR headset will adjust the image at the very last moment, like in the last 3 or 4 milliseconds. And so that hides any kind of jitter or problems on your network as well. Like I said, flexible input. Hands kind of sucks. You'll find yourself clicking things by accident or dragging them around. It's a neat idea. It'll make you look super cool on the airplane when you fly in an airplane again, but practically not so good. The second use is wireless PC VR. So what this means is you go to Steam, you buy a VR game. Steam thinks you're going to use Oculus PC or a Vive headset. Instead, use your Quest through Wi-Fi. This is totally different ballpark. You're asking for almost, not cutting edge, but nearly perfect operation from your Wi-Fi, from your CPU, from your GPU, and then again from your Quest as it decodes this video coming into it at very high bit rates. For contrast, the Vive Wireless, which is a commercial product, but it's from Vive, so it's just barely consumer friendly, is over $300, and it uses
Consumer-ish.
this consumer-ish, prosumer. It uses this exotic 60 gigahertz line of sight. I'm staring at the one on my wall right now. Even the cable going to the transmitter is limited to about 6 feet. You cannot have the cable from the PC to the transmitter any longer than that, or it can't deal. So that's sort of where the bar has been until people started getting clever with consumer products here. So there's a lot of steps in there, but you can kind of go through and troubleshoot. So this is kind of in the context, I think RJ and Matt and I were talking about, should I buy a new router? And I'd already started digging into it, and I just said don't, because it's all lies. Every router is all lies. These are kind of the steps that you can follow to find out where your bottleneck is. And you might end up like me and find out that your GPU and your PC is not good enough, and your Wi-Fi is totally fine, even though you're using the router that T-Mobile sent you for free as the Wi-Fi link. True story. So you can just eliminate each one of these bottlenecks and kind of test around it. So the GPU on your PC now has to, at the very last moment, encode a frame of video and stream it out. That's a significant load. I was kind of surprised. I don't trust the percentages, but on my 980 Ti, which is my best card, it was registering around 15 to 20% by whatever percentage metric that Windows uses. As you stress it out, you can start to see when it fails to send the frames fast enough. That's a better way to measure it. Quest 1, you could overwhelm the poor little chip trying to decode the video coming in. Quest 2, you really can't. So built into Virtual Desktop, you can move a slider to lower the bit rate of the video coming in, and that's a remote control to tell the PC to send less bandwidth, use less bandwidth for the video. And you can temporarily boost your clocks on the local device to drain your battery faster, but also see if that was the bottleneck. This software running on the PC has to pretend that it's a VR headset plugged into a PC. So there's a little bit off of things on there. In terms of performance, though, the only things I noticed was SteamVR gets kind of confused about default rendering sizes. So you just set those to manual and mess with them. If you've never used SteamVR or tried to make the frame rate good, it's maddening. It's basically the same here, but with just one new variable. And this is where I got to the point where if I wanted to use Wi-Fi to stream my new, what's the new X-Wing TIE Fighter game? Star Wars Squadrons, which is what I wanted. That's what I wanted to do, is use my shiny Quest 2 screens for Star Wars. Turns out I'm way off. I have no chance. And that's basically when my spirit was broken, and I just finished this presentation and gave up. But if I want to play Fruit Ninja on my PC instead on my Quest, I can. I can do that right now with no frame rate hits. There's a few little quirky things. For some reason, in the Oculus store, I just wasn't able to run super hot. I didn't pursue it very long. It would just start up in like a weird 2D mode with a screwed up camera. But I own that on Quest, so why would I play it on my PC? If it's a performance thing, you can just limit the resolution on the PC side and see it go away, like I said. And then finally, Wi-Fi. This is kind of the actual meat of my talk, because I learned this so you don't have to. You have to use a 5 gigahertz network. You kind of don't have a choice. So you can look at congestion around your house, around different rooms of your house, around your neighborhood, basically. And you probably want to use wider channels, and I got some visuals about that. But if you want to eliminate your Wi-Fi as an issue, just plug in your Quest 2 wired USB gigabit adapter. What?
So I tried to do that in the Quest 1, and it didn't work. So that's
Whoops.
cool it does finally in Quest 2.
Yeah. There's one.
Ooh.
So I just happened to own this one because someone made me do development on a MacBook, and I couldn't use Ethernet. And remember, Ethernet's what you use if you care, and Wi-Fi is what you use if you don't care. So I bought one, and then it got done with the Mac project and gave it back, and there it is.
$12?
So the Quest has a USB-C port, and pretty much everything you're going to buy. If you bought a Mac specific one, you might find something that fits in a USB-C port. But anything affordable that you buy will have the traditional large USB-A. So that's just an adapter. But one good detail to notice on there is I looped it through the head strap to support the weight. Because if you're doing dumb stuff like me and hanging things off that USB-C port, it's not going to last a couple of years. It's going to get bent. So support the weight of anything.
Monster, you'd have a right angle thing in there and have it braced.
Yeah. And the port's in a very good spot now for doing that. If you do a right angle, you can run it along the strap, and you can just rubber band it right to it. My battery pack works like that.
Oh, cool.
But so limited time only, probably, because like Matt said, it's not supported on Quest 1, so this is probably an accident. They have locked down other USB drivers.
I believe it's also because of the newer version of Android that's on Quest 2.
Okay.
Because there's some USB functionality that was added to root Android, and it still might eventually get disabled, like you're saying, but it is just because I have been able to, like I could do on my Android phone, I've plugged in a USB-C Ethernet adapter and it worked fine, and that's why I got the idea to test it on Quest 1, and then it didn't work.
Yeah. And like this is an obscure reference, but the developer for Tactical Haptics, which is that crazy skin shear controller that we've talked about a few times here, but he was in the VR dev Slack, and he confirmed that in Android that they locked down wireless USB adapters, like the functions weren't even allowed without root access, which people don't have now. So you might have one of these already, and if you don't, they're about $10 or $12. Although again, it's not going to be a long-term thing. But if you have one around, I think a lot of people might.
Drives? Can you
I don't know.
Like a 2 terabyte SSD into that?
It might, but the power draw is going to be crazy. Yeah. I actually saw some numbers on that, and the power draw for a typical thumb drive was more than the Quest uses for its OS, basically. Not for rendering a game, but for sitting around. It draws more power to have a thumb drive plugged into the side than. That was probably a Carmack comment from somewhere. But yeah, so you too can have mini cords hanging out of there. And if you remember, I said Bluetooth pairing eventually broke. Those other 2 cords are going to a keyboard and mouse. So
I'm surprised with the Office initiative stuff that they wouldn't support wireless USB. Like, you think that'd be awesome.
I think Bluetooth is a little more friendly on Android is all. But yeah, and none of that's officially out until winter, whenever winter is. So this is all just screwing around with the freshly released hardware. So terms on the left might be on the box or the back of the router you own. Terms on the right might be in advertisements you see, although they kind of retroactively applied these numbers to the different Wi-Fi standards. That thing that T-Mobile gave me for free is an AC router. Not a terrible one. It's Asus. It was about $90 when it came out. And that's more than enough. So if we start looking at the new routers, they just raise the price because they have a new name on the Wi-Fi and a couple new features that you probably can't use and don't need. So the one that will be interesting is Wi-Fi 6E, because they finally add some new network spectrum, and a lot of it. Only it's not finalized, and the routers may or may not be able to use the new spectrum when it comes out, so it's even more lies. And like I said in the bottom here, it's all lies, it's all lies. And especially if you're near an airport or weather radar. I got some visuals for that. So this is Zach's house. Walking around with my phone. On the left is 2.4 gigahertz. And you can't make it out, but there's something like 16 to 20 networks there. 3 of them are mine, to be fair, but there's a lot going on. And essentially when you get some interference, it just drops the packet and has to retransmit. And that's the death in VR. You don't want that to happen ever. Here in 5 gigahertz on the right, totally different story. The big red thing is me on my T-Mobile free router. And the other little spike there is some neighbor somewhere that I couldn't really get a direction on. So 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi doesn't penetrate walls very well. In this case, it's a good thing. If you're moving around your house, it's maybe sort of a bad thing, but there's just so much congestion now that it's good that it can't come through my walls. It definitely can come through my windows. There's a big gap in the middle, which I'll explain on the next slide. And you can see that these channels have different widths. One of the really old OG Wi-Fi things is basically there's only 3 valid channels on 2.5 gigahertz because they're so wide they pollute everything around them. You get to choose from 15 numbers, but only 3 of those don't overlap with each other. So that's where you kind of see everybody picking their channels there. Here on the 5 gigahertz, there's a lot of different standards, so you can see different widths. There's some big monstrously wide ones here at the low frequencies in my neighborhood. Here's the spectrum for 5 gigahertz. Everything in the green here on the left will be supported by every AC router and newer. Everything on the green on the right is also. This only applies in the US, mind you. It's different in Canada, different in other countries. In the middle, there's this big chunk of DFS channels. It stands for dynamic frequency switching. I can't see the top of my slide. And what that means is you can go ahead and use those, but if anybody important needs to use them, then you should stop using them. And so to implement that in practice, you listen to see if there's any Wi-Fi there. If there isn't, you start to probe it, and then eventually you might find something and connect to it. And then maybe your router would get a ping from, this airport that I happen to live 3 miles from, or some weather radar, and then it would stop transmitting on that frequency and switch to a different one. So that's also the death in VR. You don't want that. So that's where you got to take the leap of faith if you really want to try to use those frequencies. Hopefully your router already has them, and you can just try it and see what happens. If you want to go buy one, it might or might not work well. It might work fine. I know I'm close to an airport, so I was pretty gun shy about it. So
Can you just Faraday cage your house?
probably that would probably help a lot of things. Except your phone signal, it wouldn't help that.
Well, then it'd just be quieter.
And when the EMP goes off, you'll have all your electronics still, and we won't. So that's cool.
And my phone just switched to Wi-Fi calling anyway.
Actually, a lot of houses have stucco, which is a natural Faraday cage.
Right.
Is it?
It's a big problem in Minneapolis when they put in the Wi-Fi.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, stucco
Oh.
typically has like chicken wire underneath it.
Yeah, real small hole chicken wire.
Mesh, yeah.
Oh, just to hold it up.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
Just have
Carlos,
a stucco stick to.
Carlos, you had a question too? Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's a little quieter, but I could hear him. Yeah, so he's asking about human interaction with these different frequencies and health and stuff. The general rule of thumb is the higher frequencies will penetrate skin and anything else less. It's not that they're transmitting at a higher power or anything, it's just they're a smaller wavelength. So when you go to the airport and they scan you with that super high frequency, see through your clothes stuff, that's supposed to just bounce off of skin. That's the whole working theory of it. So I don't know of any studies, but just kind of speaking in general about how these radios work, the higher frequencies would penetrate humans less. would bounce off rather than penetrate. And also, if it's not set up in your bedroom, the 5 gigahertz it attenuates a lot when it tries to go through a wall. Like when I go from upstairs to downstairs, it's like half the bandwidth of when you're on the same level. So the scanner there's different ones for the different phones. They all have the same name, so you go by the number of reviews, I guess. But there we go. Get my face lock turned on. That one's literally just called Wi-Fi Scanner, and the other app I already had called Wi-Fi Scanner stopped working on my newest Android version, so I got this other version. And it's got ads on the bottom there. Over here, some dentine. And on this one, I remembered
Wi-Fi
to
scanner with Wi-Fi scanner.
Yep, they're both installed. I was a little too lazy to get rid of the first one. But yeah, it's nice to have it on a phone because then you can walk outside, you can walk to your windows, you can look and see, what direction interference might be coming from, or a tablet or a phone. One thing I should say,
IDs.
yeah, and one thing I should say here on the right with that big gap in the middle, either nobody in my neighborhood uses DFS channels, and that's very plausible. They're super confusing, and they don't ship in that many routers, not consumer ones. Or my phone doesn't work with DFS channels, and I can't see if there's any there. One or the other. I couldn't find any documentation on my Samsung S9 that it did support it, or didn't. I couldn't find either. I forgot my favorite note here. If you have Comcast or Xfinity cable for your internet, they're running a free Wi-Fi hotspot out of your house, which you can get turned off by connecting to their web portal. And it looks, you probably can't read this stuff over here. It looks like, where is one of them? Oh, I can't even read it either. It's labeled like Xfinity such and such. Whereas you might have renamed your own network to something else. It'll still have a default one running on the same channel. So I don't think it's necessarily bad, but like, why would I want that if it could cause interference?
Yeah,
And
that
why
just
didn't
sounds
they
weird.
why didn't they tell me about it? Yeah, so when they brag about all their hotspots across the country, those are people's houses and businesses.
Wow.
Yep. So the last thing on this slide, though, the channel widths are these blue bars along the bottom. You want to do an 80 megahertz channel if you want to truly stream like PCVR. People have said they're doing it with 40. I kind of don't believe them based on what I saw, but depending on what you're playing, it might not matter how compressed or how much latency, or might depend on my environment too versus their environment. To get into these really wide channels, the big monster ones, that's where you have to cross into the DFS. And if it works for you, that's great. But you don't actually need that much bandwidth. And when you see it advertised on the box, what they did was they took one of those big chunks that might or might not work in your house and pretended like there's only one device connected to your Wi-Fi and that it could do that as well. And then they put the number on the box that's really big. So any questions about that Wi-Fi stuff? I kind of bounced around a little bit, but I think it's basically, if you want to do 2D desktop things, I think it'll work fine in anybody's house. If you want to do this VR stuff, you're going to have to work at it a little bit, but you can eliminate each variable. You can eliminate your Wi-Fi by doing wired Quest 2 temporarily, just to see how it works. You can eliminate your GPU by just giving it a much lighter workload by running at lower res for a little while. And you can just kind of fiddle with the different parameters. But you hear about, and like Carlos said, he had to fiddle around to get Link working. That's much easier than this. So if you really want to run PCVR, I'd actually tell you just to get Link, or wait for him to update it for Quest 2 and then get it. Because then you're guaranteed, more or less guaranteed, that it'll work well and it'll look good, and you'll have good latency. You'll have better latency than this. The typical latencies or 20 milliseconds for 2D desktop and 30 milliseconds for full dive, PC VR. And 30 sounds like a big number compared to what we're used to these days, but the time warp still kicks in on your headset and doesn't feel bad. You might notice it if you're playing like ping pong or something really fast. You might actually notice the latency on your hands. I can't sense it, but I didn't do like any competitive gaming with and without it. Because again, all I wanted to play was X-Wing and TIE Fighter. That was the whole point for me. And I failed at that, so I'm going to use a cable. If you want to run your Quest 2 at 90 hertz, again, you have to force that on the Quest side until they update the OS. Virtual Desktop has a readout, so you can actually see what it's doing. That's pretty nice. Clear type fonts are where they use subpixels, red, green, and blue to smooth out text on your screen. On a modern laptop, you don't notice that it's colored, but once it's projected to this giant monstrous thing in VR, you notice all these weird colored speckles. So you just find that and turn it off on Windows. High frequency monitors above 60 hertz make Virtual Desktop go apeshit. It just piles on latency, and eventually you're like 3 seconds behind on your head turns, and you feel pretty sick. So if you've got a really fast monitor, you need to either use a different monitor or turn that down to 60 hertz. Do you have a question, Matt?
Yeah, just curious, and maybe I missed it, but when you were using the Ethernet adapter, how was the performance versus Wi-Fi?
It felt the same to me. There's people on Reddit that claim lower latency. I didn't see that, but most of the people on Reddit can't read. You get a lower latency in 2D mode, and then you launch a VR app, and then you have to go into the hidden menu, which is by that point is 3 layers deep because you're running a Vive thing, but actually you're in Quest on a different device. So it's like, some thumb calisthenics to get back to the Virtual Desktop readout. And nobody that knows what they're talking about has ever said that they've gotten much below like 29, 28, 25 milliseconds. Yet there's people running around talking about like 18 and stuff like that. I just don't believe that they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so I didn't see it go lower. I did see I did see like less up and down. So the Wi-Fi caps out at 150 megabit. I totally couldn't do that on my Wi-Fi. I could do 100 mostly, but really 75 or 80 was where I didn't have hiccups. Once I went wired, I could go higher than that to like 100, 120 or something.
Is your adapter a 10100 or a gig?
You want a gigabit adapter.
Okay.
Yeah. And likewise on your Wi-Fi, I didn't say that, but you need your Ethernet port that's going to your PC to be a gigabit because it is above that bandwidth that you need. And yeah, so Carlos was just complaining about his virtual audio driver in Oculus. Once you install Virtual Desktop, you get another one. So then now your computer has one for Oculus. Now it has one for the Vive. Now it has one for Virtual Desktop, and it has one for Zoom. I think Microsoft is the only person that hasn't installed one. Although they have that weird thing they do for their headsets. So it is better than Zoom, though. Zoom's a monster. So yeah, so that's kind of all I had there. Any real quick questions on the Wi-Fi garbage? I'd say the best thing to take away, if you're going to take anything away, is just this picture. That there's channels, and they can be different widths, which wasn't a thing in the olden days of Wi-Fi. You can have different widths, so you can see what works better. And that you should probably have one of these kind of apps if you don't have one already, because you make things better by just switching the channel to something your neighbors don't use. Or I was in an office once where they had 2 Wi-Fis in the same room on the same frequency. They had pretty poor performance in there. But
Depending on your router too, it might auto switch channels, which can be annoying. Like you have a stream going and then it switches channels, and then you get disconnected for a few milliseconds, and then or longer depending on hardware. If you
Okay.
have spotty Wi-Fi, that could be the reason.
Yeah, definitely. Yep, Carlos. Hmm. I think so. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know what your settings will look like in there, but oops, I gotta try to back up here. Let's see if I can manage it. You'll see these different things possibly in there about AC versus AX, or the version right before that was called END. Really, the thing you want to end up with, because some of that's kind of hard to decipher the way they've phrased it in there. You just want something, you know, that looks good in here when you're done. So I don't know how many neighbors you have, but the thing on the left is kind of a mess, and the thing on the right is really good. The red spike is me, and the only other person on that frequency is so much lower that it actually disappears once in a while. It can't be read. So. Yeah, it's nice. Yep. I think, does anybody have, do you have iOS? You have iPhone? Marty, do you have one of these for your iPhone? You're probably muted.
I think I
Okay.
did have one, but it probably was like iOS 4, which was a long time ago. And I also might have been jailbroken back then.
Yeah,
I
something
just did a
similar to
throw
that.
sack. I'm not seeing anything like this for iOS.
Oh,
Yeah, it could be a Apple issue.
I don't think so. Maybe. I got a 2D mode here. I'm gonna Google it really fast. I see pictures that look like that. It might be called a Wi-Fi analyzer.
Okay.
But yeah, some Googling should find something. Because really all it's doing is it's just doing that same thing where it scans the list and you see the strength of, you know, network name is this, strength is this. It's just doing that in a picture form. It's
I'm seeing
not super complicated.
I'm seeing one called Why Pry on the App Store. So they definitely exist.
Yeah.
It's got like 2.5 star rating, but it's there.
Yeah. Oh. Does that work good? Okay. Nice. Space
Great
Pirate
trainer.
Trainer. Yeah. Hey, that reminds me. Right before you got here, we did Quest 1 versus Quest 2. This matters to very few people, but it matters to me. The Quest 2 doesn't like being outside as much as the Quest 1.
Really?
Yeah. So we tested one
Overcast,
side by side in a parking lot, because that's the only place we could think to meet up in COVID times. And here in Minnesota, it was, I don't know, like 1 in the afternoon, 2 in the afternoon, and the sky was pure white, all clouds. So when you look at the ground, you can see your own shadow. But the Quest 1 was fine. The Quest 2 was just not doing anything. You couldn't see a controller right in front of it. And then eventually it got dark storm clouds, gray sky, and then the Quest 2 was finally happy. So
I think part of that, though, is that if the clouds are not thick enough, they probably disperse IR more.
could be.
So it was covering, it was covering a more spectrum or covering more area with IR. So that probably was fighting against what the Quest can see.
But the cameras are the same in both.
Yeah.
So they might attune the Quest
they might
2
be-
for higher exposure.
Yeah, but the controllers are lighter colored too, so I don't know if
Oh yeah. Yep.
lighter colored plastic has anything to do with it. Because you could, if you were under certain lighting conditions, like there wouldn't be any difference between like a light color and the controller color, and it might get lost a little bit. I don't know how much of it's based on purely on the LED arrangement and versus where the controller actually is visually. I don't know if they're using any combo of visual and IR, if it's just all IR. I don't
Oh, that's that's an interesting thing. They might have trained it with the visual spectrum too. Yep.
Because if they were doing machine learning to track the shape, they could tell orientation with the photography that's there as well.
If I do Quest 1 outside, the headset tracking seems okay, but it's my controllers that usually go crazy.
Yeah.
So.
And for Quest 2, it'll go a lot sooner.
Yay!
But garage still works. That's still my favorite play space, is my garage. So, okay. So I think that's a wrap, everybody.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
Good
job.
to see you. When I saw you last time, Carlos, for that official event, I realized I was talking to you for like 2 minutes while I was muted. So I was just like waving my arms. We're messing with that today.
You can turn auto mute off if you go into the settings, just so you know.
I thought I did.
It's weird. I don't see Carlos either.
You don't see him?
No.
Well,
at all.
did you remember you said you didn't like him, so you banned him?
No, I would never.
Yeah. Oh, you should hear what he's saying about you right now. He's swearing at you.
Can you hear him? He's right
You
here.
can't hear him or anything,
No,
right?
I can't hear him or see him. It's like he's not in the room with me.
Nobody.
He's
There's a,
over here.
Yep.
Or,
right
or
there.
can you not hear him also? Can you not hear each other? Are you disconnected?
That's a great question, Carlos. Can you hear me?
Okay.
You can report back. I can't hear his reply.
Yeah, I'm in the
He
same
said he
boat.
could hear you.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, maybe the only thing I can think of is that I'm on desktop, but that doesn't
I
make
see
any
him.
sense.
He
Yeah.
said he's on desktop also. Yeah, they both are.
Probably some weird
He's
fluke,
on
or else you
desktop
banned
too,
him.
Marty.
I think you did. You banned
I'm
him.
pretty sure I didn't ban him. I
I don't even know where that
definitely
list
didn't do it on
is.
purpose. What was that?
Where's that? Hey, Carlos, where's the list of people you hate in the menu?
Yeah, maybe Carlos banned me.
But it's not in the GUI? Oh. Yeah,
Well, how
I've
many
never
people
found
do you
it.
see, Marty?
What? Say that again.
How many people
People.
do you see?
That's a good question. Let me look. I shouldn't be doing this on stream. I'm still streaming. I see 3, 4. There's only 6 of you total in addition to me.
He said,
Okay, there should
go
be 7.
to alt space menu, people along the bottom, and then blocked along the top.
All right. Well, I'll do that, but I'm gonna end the stream first. So, thanks for watching, everybody.